Okay, I think this is working because this is our first ever webinar connecting to Facebook Live. So let's see how we go, Facebook world. Today we're here with Kate from Girls Autistic Journey Non-Binary Acceptance Page. She's an amazing autistic woman, and we're so proud to have her here today to join us for a webinar. Welcome, Kate.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel honoured that you've allowed me to be part of this. So I really appreciate that.
No problem, anytime. We really admire what you do and what you share on your page. You've got an amazing way with words. So thank you so much for what you do for our tribe.
No, I really appreciate it. I love it.
So we sent in some questions in advance, and feel free to read or just discuss any way you like and you're comfortable. But some of the questions we got from our community is, what would you like the current and future generations of autistic girls and women to know?
When I read this question, it made me think back, and I thought I want to talk a little bit about sort of my childhood and how being autistic affected me. And obviously I didn't know I was autistic in my childhood. And what I found was I was always trying to be this right person for everyone else. And I was always trying and changing myself to fit in. And it's really difficult when you're trying to do that all the time. It's very tiring. And what I found was I was just remaking myself over and over. So when I was with a certain person, I would have a certain persona. When I was with another person, I would then have another persona. And it was all to try and want to fit in and want to be understood and to feel that I belonged. And what I found was over time, I just didn't know my own feelings or who I really was. And I didn't develop my own kind of personality. I was just sort of all these different people stitched together at all different points in time. And what I found was that I just felt completely lost. And what I want future generations to know is that, you know, if you feel like this, then please take the time to find yourself and to understand that, you know, you might be different and you're not going to experience the world like neurotypical people do. But it's okay to experience the world like that.
That's really good, Kate. Thank you. And that actually leads to the question on what tips or advice, because you're giving some great advice for our tribe.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing I would say is don't look at yourself as being different or broken or wrong. Just look at yourself as being you. And I think what you need to try and do, even though it's really, really difficult, is to just be your authentic self, because that in a way frees you. And then it allows you to have the inspirations and to have your dreams for what you want to do. And I think if you can allow yourself to be freed like that, then you're going to kind of get the true you and be able to reach the goals and do the things that you can do that you think you might not be able to do. Because I definitely felt that restricted me, because I started to believe other people's perceptions of me. And that kind of stopped me from freeing myself and being my real self. And now at 40, I'm actually doing a degree, and I've always wanted to do it, but I just thought I was never good enough. And now I'm doing that. So
well done.
If I hadn't have let other people's perceptions rule my life, then I would have done it a long time ago. So that's the big thing. I think find the people that understand you and want to accept you as you. You know, the people that want to change you and mold you into something else. Long term, those people are not going to free you and make you feel good about yourself. And it is really tricky, because when you're young and you want to fit in and you're at school, it's so difficult.
Hmm.
I've found being my true authentic self has really freed me and allowed me to actually be more than I ever was when I was trying to be that neurotypical person. Now I'm just me, and it's so much better.
That's great, Kate. And it's so amazing to hear that the journey is so similar and it's echoed no matter where you are in the world for our women and girls, that it's so similar. What you're saying will resonate with so many people around the world. We're united with that story. It's just so common, and this advice will help pave the way for a different tomorrow, so that, like you said, our girls can grow up finding those people who truly value who they really are. So thank you. That's great advice. Did you have any other advice, or did you want to move on to the next question?
No, just really, like I say, making connections that kind of bring you to yourself to light. That's what I've found, is that by making these connections with people, it draws this light inside of you, and I think it opens you up and makes you so much more of a person because you're making those good connections. I think that's the kind of really big tip.
That's really huge, powerful stuff. So at Yellow Ladybugs, we like to really take a strength-based approach in what we do and what we focus on. So we're just curious what you think your particular strengths are as an individual, anything in particular related to how you perceive the world being autistic, and what you'd like anyone to know about that.
Well, what I tend to find is, and people always say this to me, I don't do things by halves. So if I have a passion about something, or if I'm interested in something, I am completely focused on that. And I devote all my time and energy into that. And a lot of people say, sometimes our autistic people become, fixated on things. And I don't think it is. I just think it's that when you find something you're truly passionate about, I want to give everything I possibly can to that. And it feels so great to be able to be so focused on something and to get so much connection out of something. And I think that's what it is. I think autistic people engage more and kind of immerse themselves more in their interests. And that's something that I see as a big strength, because obviously you can use that to your advantage. And obviously, finding out I'm autistic and my daughter and my whole family are autistic, autism kind of became my sort of interest, if you like. And that's how all of this kind of developed for me. I just found a passion for it, and it sort of went from there. So I think that you have to look at that as a strength. Without a doubt, I don't see it as a difficulty. So yeah, that's kind of
Fantastic, definitely. And I love it. Why wouldn't you want to immerse yourself? It just makes so much sense to our tribe, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think a lot of autistic people as well have strengths in terms of that we're very straightforward, and that we're very trustworthy. And I think people look at these so-called autistic defects in the wrong way, and actually they're attributes, and they're things that can really help us. We're hugely committed. I feel that we're less judgmental. We're very trustworthy. I think that we have great integrity. We don't like to cut corners, we don't like to cheat, there's so many things that are strengths and positives for us.
Absolutely.
And it's just about turning the defect on its head and looking at it from a different angle, how autistic people look at things from a different angle. It's for me, that's what it's about.
Thanks. That's brilliant insight, and so true. And we do have a question come in. You can answer it now, or you can think about it, maybe answer it towards the end. But we had someone ask, how do I advocate this freedom for my autistic child compared with neurotypical? Should I push my child to enable her to fit in as an adult?
I think it is very difficult, and I think it's about finding these passions, just what we were talking about. It's getting your daughter to truly sit down and think about what makes her feel good, what makes her feel happy, and what gives her that passion. And I think it's connecting with these things and building on those and encouraging those passions, because quite often, sometimes if an autistic person's interested in something, people are not always wanting to bring that passion out. But I think if you do that can then lead to other connections. You're going to find other people that are equally passionate about the same thing, and that's how you build friendships and connections. And it's a way in, it's a way of building those friendships. So I think it's igniting the passions further and then seeing where that can lead off to. And quite often, like a lot of my friendships I've built now have been through my passion I have for advocating with autistic people, and I've made lots of friendships through that. So I think you have to try and find your passion, and hopefully from that will build and sort of go from there.
Amazing advice. I think that's spot on. And it's all about meaningful connections for our tribe, isn't it? Rather than forced socialization.
Yeah, I mean, I love having real conversations with people, not about the weather or where I'm going on holiday. I like, real in-depth conversations and passions. And that's why connecting with someone that has the same passion as you is just amazing. It makes you feel so alive. And that's where I think is a good place to start.
Beautiful advice. We've got time for another question, which was, what sort of things would could parents or family have done when you were a child to help you meet any challenges that you had at the time? Obviously, you said you weren't aware that you're autistic at the time. You didn't have a name to it. So how do you think, or what do you think could have been done?
I think my parents did the best they could to try and understand. Again, it was very difficult. My mum would often go into the school and say, things are not quite right. I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm not sure what's going on. Kate just seems to be struggling. And the school very much were, she'll be okay. And so I think my mum tried to flag it up many times, but was just kind of told, oh, I'm just a willful child. My mum would be stricter with me. And so I think it was very difficult for my mum. And now, years later, we've sat down and realised that my mum's obviously autistic. And we have these conversations all the time. And the other day we was talking about something I was doing when I was a child, and I said, gosh, all the signs were there. And she said, yeah, it's just a shame we didn't know, what it meant. But I wouldn't change my life. It's taught me a lot, and it's given me an insight into how I don't want the next generation of autistic people to feel. If I hadn't have experienced that, I wouldn't be able to say, look, this is what I've experienced, and I don't want you to feel like that. That's why it's important that you do connect with people that understand and respect you and get you.
So true.
I didn't do that, and and I think it's important. So I think they did the best they could. I know my mum had quite a lot. She was quite upset, that she hadn't realised, but I said, it's okay, and we often talk about it. And so
and you said she was on the spectrum. She's autistic too, which is beautiful, because it's so lovely to hear even the generation before us getting a better understanding of themselves.
Well, because she said to me, when people would say I was this and that, and she would just say, yeah, but she's just like me. That's just how I was. So she never really saw the issue. If I felt a certain way, she'd say, but I feel like that. And so we realised, looking back, my granddad, her dad, was very much on the spectrum. We realised that, and we've kind of seen and so
and now it's hard not to diagnose everyone in our family, isn't it?
yeah
it's a common thing.
But no, we can definitely see that, and it's brought, I think, as a relationship between us, it's brought us closer together, because now my mum understands sometimes if I don't want to connect with her, or I need some time, she respects that and understands that. Whereas before,
Great.
she used to feel a little bit hurt, and but
Yeah.
now we kind of have better understanding. So I think in my whole life, it's led me to have better understanding. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
I know we're close to the end of our time. I could honestly talk to you all day, but if you had one last bit of advice for teachers, what would it be?
For teachers,
Yeah, we often
um,
hear,
for me, I think teachers need to believe children. If a child says it's too noisy, if a child says that this is too much, if whatever a child says,
mm,
generally most children are telling the truth. And I think don't judge the situation by your feelings. Okay.
mm,
If a child is telling you something, you need to validate those feelings and respect those feelings, even if you do not see it, do not agree with it, or do not feel it in terms of sensory. It doesn't mean that it's not true. That's one big thing. I think we have to stop judging children on how we feel and listen to how they feel, because they're telling you the truth.
beautiful. That's such a good message. And we applaud all the teachers that get it and are working towards this. And let's work together to listen to autistic voices so that we can get information from the true experts on this. So thank you, Kate. Honestly, anyone listening, please follow Kate on Girls Autistic Journey, non-binary acceptance page. It's brilliant. The insights that come from your page, we're so grateful. We're indebted to you. Thank you. It's wonderful to connect from the other side of the world and to bring this to our community. And I would love to do something more with you in the future. So
Definitely.
to the community, watch this space.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're
Definitely.
just so grateful. We've got such a great lineup. We've kicked it off beautifully with Kate today. Thank you. And yeah, thank you so much, and happy World Autism Acceptance Day.
And yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing something further, definitely.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Right?
Yes, Cynthia.
Last time I was in Minnesota about a year and a half ago, and I missed snow by about 2 days. I remember leaving. It was like 30 degrees Fahrenheit, and I came back to Miami. It was like 50 degrees warmer here because there's no seasons. And I remember I had all of these different coats on and jackets, and I came back to Miami airport, and everybody thought I was crazy. And I'm like, I woke up in Minnesota this morning. It was freezing.
This is how much I love Hayley. We're already having a chat. We've just gone live. We're talking about the amazing weather in Miami versus Melbourne. I think Miami wins. So we've just gone live, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Hayley, for joining us today. We're so grateful.
Thank you, Katie, for having me. And I'm so excited to begin kicking off World Autism Day with you and everyone at Yellow Ladybugs. It's not currently World Autism Day here in Miami yet because you all are ahead of us, but so excited to get pre-gaming and started here.
Yeah, no, we're really grateful for you taking the time out to do that. So we had a couple of questions that we sent in advance from our members. So I just thought I'd kick it off with some of those questions.
Okay.
One of them was, how would you most like the current and future generations of autistic girls and women to, what would you like them to know?
I think I want the current and future generations of autistic girls and women to know that you can do anything. And I think only you could be the one who decides what you can and can't do. I think what happens a lot with autistic girls and women especially is we're told by neurotypical people what we can and can't do. Is they're the ones who are saying, this is what you should be doing, this is what you could be doing and should, but only we are the ones who get to make that decision at the end of the day. And I think that's something that is empowering, and I think that also helps us be more independent and also to understand ourselves and to be the best version of ourselves that we could be, is if we're the ones that are in control of our fate.
That's great advice, and I think that that is a great, you've got an example, obviously, with your own story, being, you know, an amazing lawyer. Now you've just become, congratulations.
Thank you. It's it's definitely an exciting journey so far. I'm enjoying being a lawyer, so it's a lot to learn.
Fantastic. And do you have any advice or tips that you would give the next generation or current generation of our tribe?
I think what I want the next generation to know is don't be afraid to be yourself. The world needs you exactly as you are for who you are. We need the stuff that makes you unique. We need the things that you're talented at, you're good at. We need all of it. Celebrate who you are. I can't wait to see what you do next.
No, that's beautiful. And that's exactly what we do with Yellow Ladybugs. We definitely try and use a strength-based approach in everything we do, we discuss, because it's so important for our well-being and our tribe's well-being to believe in themselves. So we're definitely aligned there.
I feel the same way. I grew up knowing all the strengths because I think, and even my family, we were like, all children know what's hard for them, but not everyone gets to hear what they're good at. I mean, even look at what we do in jobs and what we do everywhere. We always tell people what they're doing wrong, but we don't tell people what they're doing right and what they're good at. And people benefit from that reinforcement of, hey, you're really good at something. You're doing a great job. You are so talented. And especially with young children, I feel like it really helps. And especially autistic children who might otherwise feel like an outcast or like they don't belong, to remember what they're good at and what is special about them is so valuable.
Yeah, totally. I agree. That's just great information out there. Everyone benefits. Let's make sure we do that in the world more. So that's a bigger message there. And I think we need to hear that more and more. So what do you think, or what do you consider your strengths then? And what did you use to help drive you forward in life that others can maybe hear from and get inspired?
I always thought the most important thing that my family, because when we first talked about autism for the first time, they did the strengths, and something that I thought was really important is the way that they talked about that I was really sensitive and kind. I was very quiet as a kid too. And they're like, you're very sensitive, you're kind, you listen, you love art, you're such a great artist, you're really, and I was really good at school, so I have an amazing memory. They would make sure that I knew that. I was 9 years old, so even those kinds of things, it's like, it definitely helps to know, okay, there's stuff that I'm very passionate about, and even the stuff I was excited about when I was 9, I'm still excited about, and that really does make a difference. It's having that foundation of there's magic in you, because everything with me at 9 started with Harry Potter. So even being told there's something magical about you, there's magic in you, and having that foundation early on is like, yeah, autism's like a superpower. I am magic, and I'm different, but it's not a bad thing.
That's great. And you echo one of our ambassadors, Princess Aspian, who definitely shares those philosophies. It's beautiful to hear the synergy in the message around the world from autistic women speaking that. And I remember reading about you and your story, and your parents definitely instilling that in you, and you getting so much confidence from an early age in that. It's a beautiful message, and leads on to what would you want parents, or what would you have liked your parents to do? And it sounds like they've done some amazing things to build that with you.
I really don't have any complaints or anything. I think my parents did the absolute best job they can and can continue to do. I think sometimes what parents generally need to know is that there's a little bit of a misconception between things that we're not doing. So for me, things like driving are really hard. And I had to explain to my parents, it's not that I don't want to drive, because at first it comes off like, oh, maybe this person just doesn't want to do this. It's not that I can't drive either. It's just I see it as such a responsibility. There's just so much to it, and there's all this other stuff we don't think about with driving that makes me feel I'm not always equipped to do it. So I think there's kind of this thing with parents, we think, oh, the kid just doesn't want to do this, or this autistic person doesn't want to, whatever. It's like, well, maybe we do want to, but we don't have the tools right now to do it. It doesn't mean I never will. I think it's just right now there's something else going on that is making it inaccessible for whatever the reason. And I don't fault parents for not knowing that, because not all of us have the way to be able to say that, or even the awareness, or even the communication skills or whatnot. But that's something that I've realized as I've gotten older, is there's a difference between, oh, I don't want to clean my room, and well, I can't physically sort through and mentally sort through the steps of, oh, I got to get this cleaner, the vacuum, I got to get all this stuff out and not get distracted.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important for parents to know. And even, as you said yourself, to know as you get older, understanding so that you're more accepting of yourself and kinder to yourself, and you understand that. So that's a really important message, I think.
Absolutely.
Thank
and
you
it
for
also
sharing.
kind of gets us past this idea of, oh, we're lazy or we're something, because neurotypical standards are a lot more cut and dry. If you're not doing it, you just don't want to, or you're lazy or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, there's something else going on that's making it appear that way, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the whole sorting the room. Something that's so misunderstood is executive function, and how overlooked that is as something that we need support in, and understanding of.
I think executive
worked with you?
I think executive function is the biggest place I struggle in my life every single day. So just sorting through stuff and being like, oh my God, I got to get things clean. I got to get organized. I'm doing something tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God, what if I think I left one of my like makeup brushes at work or something today. And I was like, uh-oh, like, wait, I got to get back early tomorrow. What, am I going to be okay? Like, you just think about all this stuff and you're like, oh, just a little disorganized. And sometimes it's hard because, especially with having a job at this point and having a professional job too, it's like, okay, there's my home life, my work life, my everything else life, my autism life that I love to do stuff like this. It's like, wait, I got to keep everything straight. I got to keep it in order. There's a lot going on, and it's not always easy to balance, especially with executive function.
Yeah, exactly. And so we often hear parents saying, well, why can she get so organized when she's needs to go or she's interested in something, and why when she's not interested in it is she so disorganized? And I don't know.
I think it's like whatever we're passionate about, it doesn't matter. It's that I think it's when there's a will, there's a way, especially when it's something we're excited about.
Absolutely.
Or it's something that just means so much to us. Like, I am not an organized person, but I am an inbox zero person. Because I just can't deal with having the notification in red on my phone no matter what. And it's not that it makes me any more organized. It's just that looks organized because I can't deal with not being inbox zero.
And you mentioned you're a Harry Potter fan. We've had some great Yellow Ladybugs events with the girls coming together celebrating Harry Potter. We'll have to send you some photos in your honour.
Please do.
Lots of Harry Potter fans in our community.
My birthday is on July 31st, so I share a birthday with both J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter himself.
Oh, wow. Bonus.
I
wonder if we've got any other ladybugs out there like that. I'm sure we do. We've got, before we get into a couple of questions from the Facebook Live, I was going to ask you, thinking back to your school years, what's one thing or more than one thing that you would have liked to have desperately wanted your teachers or your school to do to better support you?
I think I would have liked more help making friends. So I did get to meet with my teachers every year before school started and with my family. So that always helped. It was kind of a form of advocacy. And also that the first time I got to class, that wasn't the first time I ever met my teacher. But sometimes I wish they knew how hard it was to make friends, especially connecting with the other girls. And I was in mainstream classes. So even being around a bunch of neurotypical girls when I was younger, I didn't always know what to do. I was always friends with the boys because they were just easier to get along with and understand. And I played video games and didn't get into Barbie dolls. So I think there has to be a way to make sure that we're including autistic girls in school, especially in those social situations that might not often get included in. I wasn't invited to lots of things growing up too. So it's like, okay, how can we make sure that we're truly including inside and outside of the classroom?
Such a good point. Such a good point. How can we exactly inside the classroom, on the playground? We hear so much about the anxiety levels on the playground. It's unstructured time. So difficult without that support or that structure. So I do have a few questions or comments. So far, someone said, as a parent of a 4.5-year-old girl, autistic girl, I'm so grateful to hear your comments, Hayley. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So
you are honestly, so welcome.
We're getting some great comments. Someone wrote, I'm loving these points. Oh my God, so validating. The world needs more people with perspectives like yours. Big thumbs up from our community.
Big thumbs up right back.
Thank you. And I think, it's such a hard thing for, teachers do their best. We understand that, and we praise everyone trying so much, but to be able to give such insight from people who have lived it in the past and navigated the school system and friendships and the executive function that goes along, often hidden, trying to keep up with school. It's so good for teachers to be able to hear these stories, because that way they can learn directly from lived experience. It's underutilized. And so we're so grateful to hear anything that you say that teachers could take back with them.
Absolutely. And I also think it changes as we get older too. Like, I know some of the challenges that I have as an adult that I had in college and law school are not the same that I had when I was earlier in my school career. So I can't say that when you're 9 years old, you're going to know how much of a challenge independent living is going to be, or that you can't get your laundry done, and not having a parent around to help you with those things is also a little different too. So, and some of the executive function, even managing your schedule when you're younger in school, sometimes we do get that support at home. And when you're on your own, you're like, oh, I got to put this on my calendar. I keep one of those agenda books, and I also calendar everything on my phone. Otherwise, I'll never know what's going on.
So you use a calendar?
I have one of those like little agenda books on my desk, and I pencil in everything in. And I also use my phone calendar for everything, because it beeps every hour with a reminder. Like if something's coming up, like 30 minutes before the live, it was like, hey, you have something to do in a half hour. And it's like, great, thank you for that reminder.
And that's great. And to be able to use that as a way to support that is fantastic.
I think technology has done a lot, because I even look at it as we didn't have half this technology that we did when I was first diagnosed and when I was growing up. I was diagnosed in the late 90s. It was a different time. We didn't have cell phones the way we do now, and they weren't like baby computers.
Yeah, exactly. We should be utilizing as much as we can, where we can, these tools to support and learn early how to use what's best. What will work for one person won't obviously work for another. So working out what works for us, and it might change over time. That's really good advice. Did you have any? So what's the future hold? Like, what are you excited about at the moment?
Right now, I'm excited to get to have these kinds of conversations, because it is April. I know a lot of self-advocates have mixed feelings on April, but I see April as a wonderful opportunity to educate and grow as a community. So with autistic people, parents, professionals, and just our friends and allies and other neurodiverse people, I see it as an opportunity to really have the hard conversations, to get to that acceptance stage that we all so desperately want to get to. So that's the right now. And also trying to become a good lawyer, and also trying to just keep things moving in the right direction in my personal life too.
Well, we're grateful for that, because without the opportunity to hear from you, and I agree, it is something, Autism Acceptance Month is, sometimes not easy for many people in our community. What I'm really enjoying is being able to shine this positive light and changing the narrative around it by uniting with amazing women speakers, tribe members like yourself. And I think that if we can take something from that, is that we're getting a understanding from the lived experience, and that's what we're all about. Let's keep on going. Hopefully one day we don't have to, and it's as common as, understanding, some people are autistic, some people are neurotypical. There's not one's not above the other.
Exactly. So, I look forward to the day when our tribe accomplishes things that it's the norm and not the exception. That it's we're just celebrating each other, and it isn't just like earth-shattering when we do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, let's hear more from, everyday people. Exactly. Lawyers, accountants. There's, heads of all sorts of companies, which we need to understand that we're everywhere. So.
Oh, we definitely are everywhere. It's just not who's talking about it at the same time. Like, I've met plenty of other lawyers, and not all of them will tell the firm or the company or anyone. And I'm like, okay, that's got to change someday, that we don't have this shame or anything or concern. I would love to see a day where people aren't afraid to be exactly who they are and shout to the world that, hey, I'm autistic. This is great. Or just somehow at least even if it isn't so great in your experience, that you could still tell people and get the help and support you might need in your life from all aspects of your life, not just in your personal life, but your professional life or your relationships or whatever aspect it is, or in school. So exactly. I think there's a lot to be done, and I think that as a community we can do it.
And thank you, Hallie, for helping, change that narrative by sharing your story. And that's what we're so grateful for. We've had comments today saying, loving the dialogue, a fantastic message. Please know we're with you. We've got your back. We're so proud of you. Sending our love all the way from Australia. And thank you so much for being part of today. I hope we can connect again and continue some sort of communication for our members on this platform. I think that there's a lot of opportunity. And this is just but a taste, I think.
I think so too. I know we are going to continue doing awesome stuff. I am so excited, and lots of love to everybody from Florida and Miami, where it's still warm and starting to get dark because it's nighttime here.
Well, I hope you get some rest, and we've got a big day ahead of us today. We've got some amazing speakers lined up for everyone.
I'll be watching.
So yeah, thanks, Haley, and see you next time.
Until next time, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Just making my space look nicer. Hi.
Hey, hi. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so grateful for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We've had so many good things, and we're so grateful someone nominated you to speak today, because we've always wanted to connect. So this is a good teaser, I think, for how we can connect.
Great.
So today we did send in some questions that we're asking all our panelists, because it'll be good to get everyone's perspective, I think, and we can get the full picture or story at the end of the day. One of the questions we sent you was what you'd like the current and or future generations of autistic girls and women to know.
Yeah, so much. But look, really what it comes down to, I think, is that I just want everyone to know that they have full permission to be themselves, to be their authentic selves. And that, I guess, I know it's hard sometimes not to kick and scream and bite and run, but that's not you. That's something that's happening because life can be difficult. But your authentic personality, express yourself the way you feel to, talk about the things you want to talk about. I sometimes think about it like ice cream. Like if all that we had in the entire world was vanilla ice cream, it would be so super boring. But if we had millions of different flavors of ice cream, that's what we want. We want to go to the ice cream stall that has 50,000 flavors, and it's exactly the same with personalities. And I just want everyone to have complete permission, give yourself permission to be exactly who you are.
I'm going to be an Oprah and go, aha moment.
I
know. Definitely. Brilliant comment. What flavor would you be?
I'd be like, I change, some days I'd be rainbow, some days I'd be choc mint chip.
Licorice.
Yeah.
Some days
And I sometimes think, like, imagine if they'd stopped experimenting with ice cream after they'd made vanilla. I'm imagining vanilla came first. It's just such a beautiful analogy for diversity.
It is. I love it. Thank you. I'm sure you've shared that somewhere before, but
actually, I don't think I have. But I think I should.
It's exclusive to Yellow Ladybugs. I love this.
We need to put that in quotation marks.
We will be quoting and making a meme as quick as anything. No, that's brilliant. I can't wait to actually share that with my own girls. It's such a powerful message, because well-being can be so impacted especially when you're even younger, or even as adults, where you see, when you're struggling with how to deal with emotions and process emotions, and having those big reactions and absorbing that as part of your identity, and not getting to that authentic self, as you said.
And it's a constant thing. I do the same thing as well sometimes now when I have meltdowns, or I find it really difficult to regulate my emotions and I'm screaming and yelling. Sometimes I think, this is who I am. I get caught up in that feeling, but then I always remind myself, no, that is not who I am. And who I am is perfect, and I should be allowed to be exactly who I am, because that's who I am.
That's beautiful. And so it leads nicely onto what advice or tips would you give our tribe?
My biggest tip is to be thoughtful and mindful of your environment. I think this gets glossed over a lot when we talk about autism. The impact of environment, and that's your literal environment, so your house, your bedroom, your car, the classroom, the places where you spend time, but also I guess the expectations of you in your environment. So the expectations of you in your own home, the expectations that are placed on you at the shop or in the classroom. And when we stop sort of focusing on autism and start looking more broadly at the world or the environment around us, there's just so much that we can adapt to make the world easier. And I think it's very empowering and wonderful to be able to stop focusing on autism for a minute and to just look at the environment we're in as something that can be made easier for us to thrive in. Sensory overload is a really super big deal. I could talk about that for hours. It's a really, really big deal.
Yeah. And so how do you experience sensory?
My own so we all have our own sensory profiles. I definitely have low thresholds for noise, tactile touch, and visual input. So I know that I need to make my home my sanctuary. I don't have control over I don't have control over the supermarket. I don't have control over the swimming pool or other places, but I do have control over my home, and I can minimize the noise. I can wear my headphones. I can minimize the lights. I can be naked. I can do all the things I need to do in my environment to make it easier for me. And then I have more capacity to go to the supermarket and to do, to be in other places that are more sensory dense.
And this is probably a topic maybe for another day when we can pick your brain on this more. But as an autistic mother, I think, it's lovely hearing that you can put those controls in place at home. And what we hear from our autistic mothers is that there's that constant battle, obviously, with your own sensory needs, and then you've got your own children's sensory. And it's just, as much as you can control it, we hear so much about that.
It is the hardest. It is hands down the hardest thing that I've ever had to commit to in my life. But you have to commit to it because you have to keep parenting. You have to just keep going. And it really is an everyday commitment. It's not something that you don't whip the headphones on when you're going to an event that's going to be noisy. It's something you have to do every single day. And noise is one of the hardest, because noise is one of the only senses that we truly cannot control. We can close our eyes and not see the stuff around us. We can not put something in our mouth if we don't want to taste it, but we can't stop noise, no matter how, even with the noise cancelling headphones. You can't stop your children making noise or moving around.
Yeah, exactly.
So
well, that's probably definitely a topic on that, because so many people experience that. So I know we just touched on it now, but let's get back to that another time. So thanks for those tips. So I've said all day, and I'll hopefully you're aware that at Yellow Ladybugs we always put an onus on that strength-based approach. We really value that, shining the positive light. Wondering what your strengths are. I'd love to hear more about what you use.
I love this question, because it's not something that I think about often, literally, what are my strengths? I just really like the way I think. I like the way my brain goes on tangents and it thinks about interesting things. And sometimes I remember maybe 15 years ago, it's stuck in my mind, always stuck in my mind. I remember it so vividly. I was with a group of friends and I was looking at the tree, and I said suddenly to everyone, I wonder how many people it would take standing around the tree, touching hand to hand to go to surround the tree. And everyone else was like, I don't know, and then went back to the small talk. And in that moment I felt in that moment as well, because I was a lot less empowered then. I felt like, I shouldn't say these things out loud. But I also definitely felt like, imagine not thinking that way. I couldn't, I would,
Yeah.
I'm so pleased I'm not one of those who's just doing small talk.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with small talkers. This isn't judging small talkers. But I love that I was thinking that, and I really do love the way I think.
I love that. And that's funny you say that, because we saw Hannah Gadsby, amazing show at Douglas show, and she talked about going to the dog park and having a conversation with someone, and she just had these great thoughts that led to such deep insights and thoughts on things. I mean, that's who she is. And if other people don't get it, that's no problem. Find someone who enjoys that.
Exactly. I love, if someone had said to me, how many people would it take to surround the tree? I'd be like, oh my gosh, I love you. How long do we have to talk about this?
Yeah, and then actually does it. Definitely. Yeah. I like it. Well, that's really good. I think that's an amazing strength. And I think something that, you know, being amazing thinkers is such a common thing we hear. Deep thinkers, connection, from many of our members. So I think many will relate to your comments. So thank you. So one of the questions we had is obviously parents do the best they can with the information they have at the time, but we're just wondering if you could go back in time, what's something that you might have liked to happen when you were younger to better support maybe some of your needs?
Yeah, look, I mean, I know it's not possible because we didn't know in the 80s what we know now. Yeah. But if we did, I would just have loved people to have the information, to know that food aversion doesn't just mean you're a fussy eater, and that not wanting to wear your school dress doesn't mean you just are refusing to wear your school dress. I don't know how that would have changed I don't know how it would have changed, but just feeling validated and understood. So when it was really difficult for me to eat food every day, it was, you know, it was a big deal at the dinner table. A lot of you sit there till you eat it type thing. And if we had understood about food aversion back then, it would have played out differently. I don't know how, but just feeling validated. I think that's been a big thing that's certainly come up since we've identified my daughter's neurology and my own neurology, and we can put all the pieces together. I really get a sense of how I felt invalidated as a child. And that's just because we didn't know the information.
And, you know, we've got a lot of people commenting saying, wow, oh my God, so me. I feel like I've discovered more about who I am since being diagnosed. I can't wait till this is available so I can show my daughter. You're validating everyone else's experiences right now. And although I wish it was, you know, a different situation when you were growing up, isn't it beautiful that you're taking that experience and changing that now for the next generation or the current generation? You know, we're learning. We're really grateful for you sharing those insights, because, you know, how else can as a society we learn and evolve unless we have people that are willing to share these stories? So thank you so much.
And thank you for the platform to be able to do it.
No problem. We're so lucky to have.
You really do need a safe place to be able to share this stuff, because it really opens you up talking about traumas and your life story. And so if there wasn't a safe platform like this for people to come, it would be so much more difficult. So thank you.
That's okay. We're so proud of our community. I really feel like we've got a collective positive energy around us. And so we do want it to be a safe place. And we hope that is always what it is for our tribe, because, you know, like you said, being vulnerable is sometimes really hard and knowing what people's responses are going to be like can be very overwhelming. So, you know, everything that's coming back is absolutely positive from what you're saying. So I want to try and fit as much in, because it's so good having you on here. But, you know, school's a whole topic for another day. But I will ask, if there's one thing that you could go back and you really desperately wanted your teachers to do or your school to give you, what would that have been?
I think the things I really struggled with at school were learning, the actual learning. So learning maths and learning things that didn't seem relevant to me and I didn't understand them because of the way they were being taught to me. I wish there was more creative avenues for learning the information, because my parents were told that I had a learning disability all the way till I was probably about 15. I never knew this. They never told me. But when they put everything to music, my parents are really proactive, and they cut oranges in halves, and they were like, see, 2 halves, and they did it all hands-on, and they put things to music, and they taught me at home. They practiced with me at home. They got me tutors at home that did things creatively, and that's how I learned. But if arts and music were more interwoven into outcome-based learning in schools, and because I'm a neurologic music therapist, I know exactly how melody and rhythm would really help the learning process and activate the brain so it's easier for everyone to learn. I think that would be a really powerful change.
Look, that's amazing information, and something we really do hope the Department of Education around, the world, all education departments listen to and understand, build their curriculum around that so that everyone has an equal platform to learn from. It's so important. And what you're doing with this space around music is so critical. Thank you for that. We have a comment from one of our webinar listeners saying, "Hi, love you, Alison. You're giving me goosebumps. I love how you explain complicated topics in a way that's so easy to understand." And we are all going to be talking to our girls about ice cream tonight. So I think that's exactly right.
We're all going to be taking our girls to the ice cream shop.
Yeah, pick a flavour today. And as you said, it doesn't have to be a flavour that's, you can be a different flavour every day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And look, the validating our children, it's so powerful. That's what we're getting from messages back from our listeners today. This is so validating, empowering, uniting. It's a beautiful message. Thank you for being vulnerable with us.
Thank you.
This is always going to be a safe place for you if you ever want to ever connect again and share more information. There's so much to dig.
I would love to do that. Yeah. For sure, let's do it.
We're on. We've got so many amazing speakers. Like, I feel already just the collective power of everyone's voices already being amplified.
It must be so hard just doing like 10 minutes with everyone.
I want to spend all day.
Talk for 10 hours.
I could easily talk for hours, which is why I think we might need to actually make this into a weekly, this is me and my impulses, weekly segment someday. With why not? Just add another thing to do. Yeah, look, lucky we've got this on record so people can go back and watch this over and over again, and it will be available. But definitely let's continue the discussion. Anything else you wanted to finish on before we end today's chat?
No, I just want to say that it's hard to constantly validate your children and yourself. It's hard to manage your needs. It's hard to cope and thrive in your environment. It's not easy, but you're all just amazing, and you're amazing.
We can do it together. Yeah, exactly. It's hard, but we're sharing the journey, sharing insights, and there'll be bumps and we'll get there. But thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you. And check out Alison's page on Facebook. We'll definitely put the link at the end of the conversation so everyone can learn more about what you do.
Perfect. Lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have
everyone.
A good day. Bye. And we can start.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Tess.
Thank you.
Very grateful. So Tess
sorry, there's a bit of a lag here. So.
There is a lag. I was just going to say Tess is from the Neurodiversity Goddess. Go check out her page. And we're so grateful for you taking time out from work. I love your necklace. There's yellow in there.
It's a Chewy toy. It's actually yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us where you got it from in a minute. So thank you so much for joining us. We have had an amazing lineup so far, and I know we've connected online before, so it's really good to meet you face to face.
It is. And I'm excited to be straight after Ali because we're both from Tasmania in Australia.
Go Tasmania.
Go Tassie, yeah. So that's
great.
And this is actually my first time going public or live with my face, because on Neurodiversity Goddess I have my little avatar and I write behind that. So
thank you.
Yeah, this is
Thank
putting
you.
a face.
And this is an exclusive face reveal for Neurodiversity Goddess on Yellow Ladybugs. So we'll jump straight into questions, because I'm sure there's some great information you're going to share with us today. So we are asking the same questions as I said, and it's really important to learn from, you know, our tribe. What would you want the tribe to know, the current and future generations of autistic girls, and what advice would you give them?
This is interesting, because when you gave me the list of questions to prepare for today, I started going through those and I started jotting down notes and I started writing down what I wanted to say or what I thought people wanted to hear. And then I had a light bulb moment. I thought, you know what? I have slipped back in to the old and the masking and into that whole 41 years of what was expected of me as somebody who was on the spectrum but not diagnosed. And I thought, that's interesting. So I want to talk about the being a late diagnosed autistic, and then looking back on your whole life and realising what you've done to get to this point. So, all
right, yeah, happy to hear anything you've got to share on that.
So what I'd like to talk about the most is about, I guess, the masking or the script or the mimicking. So the biggest thing I guess I would tell people would be, stop trying to be what everybody else wants you to be or society expects you to be. Stop trying to be neurotypical, because when you've been late diagnosed autistic, you go through your whole life trying to fit in. I knew that I was different and I knew that I didn't fit normal. I hate that, but fit normal. And my whole life as undiagnosed was that whole struggle of trying to fit in, to be normal, to be like others, to not be different, but then having that internal struggle of, I felt different and I wanted to embrace being different, but because I didn't have that awareness of why I was different, I couldn't do that. So the one thing that I talk to my daughter about, she's 8 years old and also on the autism spectrum, and we were diagnosed around the same time, is I preach to her every single day, you know, you are not like others, but that's an amazing thing to have that gift, because the things that make you who you are, the things that make you different, they're the things that are going to give you power through life if you can tap into them. Now, I preach that till the cows come home, but my other message within that is, to be that, we need to be supported. And supported, first of all, I think that we need to be able to speak up and say that, hey, I'm autistic, I'm different, I'm awesome, but I need support so I can get through this world to build on my strengths and my differences. So, yeah, that's what I really want to say to...
That was a great message, and thank you for even sharing your insight on how you approached today and how you went back into that role, and how it's just a constant thing of reminding yourself that, you know, be your authentic self, and how beautiful that message was after was great, and we're ready to hear that as a community.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, hey, here I am falling back into those old patterns of, oh, gee, you have to prepare and you have to have these perfect answers and you have to have already set in stone, prepare what you want to say. Yeah. And that's what we do, I think, as autistic women and girls, in most of our social situations or situations that we have to step into where there's a bit of pressure. We script that in our head, we prepare, we rehearse, we get it together before we step into that space so we can feel confident to do that. So I
a very good point.
That I was like essentially doing that in my brain. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very good point. And so you've touched on some of those topics you wanted to discuss. Was there anything more you wanted to discuss on masking, or maybe some tips around, you know, if we see our daughters masking, or even us, you know, autistic women?
Yeah. Well, I sit back and observe children a lot, particularly girls in social groups, and girls mask anyway. That's just part of who the girls are. But what I want people to know is, you know, if you're masking 24/7, there'll be a time where you will burn out or you will be exhausted. Now, I see for little girls, that time comes at the end of the school day. They've gone and they've masked and they come home and they crash. For me, that's the end of the work day. I can go to work, get through work, you know, pull off the social interaction, kick ass in that aspect, and then I get home and I'm just like, right, I need to hide from the world.
Yeah.
Now, you know, that masking is going to wear you out. So you need to try and find that balance between masking or going about in the world and your self-care. Or I find that when there's too much masking, not enough self-care, not enough alone time, that's when mental health starts to suffer, and anxiety, depression, you know, mood disorders, they'll come to the forefront because you just don't have the energy to do that 24/7. So to find that balance between getting through the world, doing what you have to do, and the self-care, it's really important. Yeah.
So true. And I think you've said it so succinctly. You've given so much information, even in our short discussion on this topic, that people will be able to absorb and digest and take away with them. Not only girls, but autistic women, even parents, better understanding their girls at the end of the day, what they're experiencing. Is there anything that you would suggest maybe that could help build in better support during the day for?
Yeah, sure, for the masking. So I think I've sort of worked out a bit of a strategy for myself, and that is a lot of small breaks where I can withdraw from my workplace. I'm in a high people workplace. So whether it just be a 2-minute step outside, breathe the air, feel the earth, come back in. Sometimes it's purely just a step into the toilet and hide for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say hide, but I feel like it's a bit of a hide where I just have to ground and just have that break from humans. So the mini breaks for me help to maintain that throughout the day. Otherwise, at the end of the day, I'm in burnout and I'll melt down and I can't engage with my family. So it's not so much doing the big, once a week I need to go and do yoga and meditation and really withdraw, doing that in small gaps. So just constantly maintaining that. Yeah.
That's a very good point. Very small, constant downtime or alone time is so good, and not just building it up and having it, because you may already be burnt out by the time you get to that point. So,
you are. And girls at school, little girls at school, they don't have their mini breaks. It's every couple of hours, their recess or lunch, or they don't get that time out, and then that's why they fall apart at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think, you know, teaching our girls to be their own, well, I guess there needs to be that self-awareness first, but being confident enough or able, you know, given the safe place to be able to ask for these, or even if they're not in that space yet, having teachers checking in and offering that to them, which is so important.
And that's something I've facilitated for my daughter, is that she won't always speak up when she's struggling. And I know I'm made up the same. It's difficult for us to speak up when we're struggling. We have the complication of alexithmia, so we don't always identify feeling good, and we aren't always able to speak that up. So, you know, in the school environment, I've advocated for the teacher check in with my daughter almost every hour and say, how are you going? Do you need to step outside? Do you need to get out your STEM toy pack you've got in the storeroom? So, yeah, that prompting and that just understanding that we can't always speak that up
And we hear some great strategies around using non-verbal tools to be able to do that, so that even if you don't want to express it, there's some ways that you can share that in a non-verbal way.
Right. And well, my daughter, we've coached her when she's struggling, you know, because she can't speak it up, and she gets embarrassed too to speak it up in the class. So she gives her teacher the little hand sign of the T for time out. The teacher can see that and then just go, oh, yep, there it is. So, yeah.
So I could honestly talk to you all day. We've just got a few comments from the audience. Thank you so much for your honesty. It's brilliant. Someone else said, so true. Everything you said about self-care is spot on. And someone wrote, bare feet on the earth makes a huge difference. So obviously that's something that they have used to.
They do. And I do. Whenever I'm not in the work environment, I'm bare feet 24/7 in the earth. So
It's really good too.
Very true.
Any last comments that you want? I honestly, like I said, I think this is just a teaser from these amazing speakers, because there's just so much we can unpack together. And really, it's this hasn't been enough time to get into it deeply. But if anyone does want to follow Tess, she's on, you know, Neurodiversity Goddess, has some amazing comments and insights there. Please follow her. Did you have any final comments or messages you wanted to send?
I do. So last night when I was thinking about today, I sat down with my 8-year-old daughter and I told her that I'd be on today. And I said to her, what would you like to say to all the other bugs out there? So I thought, yeah, I'd love her input. And she said to me, Mummy, I would say the thing that you've written for me that stuck to my bedroom wall. I've written her a little note some time ago. And after she was diagnosed, she ran and she got that and she ran back into the room and she brought it to me and she read it out to me. So I'm going to share that. So the message is, you are unique, you are clever, you are perfect, and I love you just the way you are.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we'll have to put that up on our page later today as one of our Go Yellow messages. Please thank her for that. And we love hearing from, I know everyone's seen, we've got some younger girls sharing their messages on. It can start at any age. You know, this is just beautiful self-advocacy and sharing this message. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for having me.
We're so grateful, and let's touch base again soon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks from our community. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so it's about 10 seconds and we'll go live.
10 seconds. 10, 10.
Thanks, Summer. You do the countdown.
9, 10, 20, 60.
I think we're there. Okay. Let's go. Thank you, Summer, for joining us today. And I can see some amazing yellow there.
Yellow.
Go yellow. So we love what you do, Summer. We've followed you for a while now, and we're so proud of everything you do. Thank you for being such a great ambassador for our tribe.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So, you know, if anyone hasn't followed Summer, go check out Chickens to Love on Facebook. It's an amazing program, and happy to share more later date. But I just wanted to jump to some questions or ask you if you had anything you wanted to share. You happy for me to ask questions?
Yeah, she's prepared.
I'm just
good with the questions. All right. So, what would you like other yellow ladybugs to learn, or any future yellow ladybugs to know?
Don't try to change yourself to fit in with everybody else. Just embrace what's different about you and find something that makes you happy, something you enjoy doing. And most people won't understand your interests, but have faith knowing that one day you will find your tribe and they will understand you.
That's such a good message, Summer. And something we hear from our older ladybugs, that they're still on that journey to finding people who understand them. So I think that's going to be a great message, not just for the younger girls, but for women around the world. Thank you. What is your interest? I think I can take a guess, but what do you love doing?
So there's the obvious, I like to hang out with my chickens because they're awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
And well, I'd love to know what you think your strengths are, because I can see so many. So I'm just curious, you know, at Yellow Ladybugs, we love focusing on shining a positive light on our tribe. So yeah, if you could just let us know a bit more about your strengths.
Well, all my strengths are part of thinking outside the box. I think how my mind works is very amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was on the spectrum, I wouldn't be able to create the art that I do, for example. I wouldn't be able to or the very crazy chicken enrichment activities that there are.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so so what sort of art do you do, Summer?
The cyborg chickens.
Okay.
Oh, wow. We'll have to get a picture maybe up on our page.
Mum's getting them now.
Oh, great. Thanks, Mum. And I'll just tell you, Summer, someone made a comment. I think we're going to have to all check out Summer's page. My 10-year-old ladybug loves chickens, and she hears about them all day long. Someone else said, so inspiring. I need to show my chicken-loving kids your page. So chicken lovers unite on Chickens to Love Summer. Yay. I think that's great. You are definitely connecting a world of chicken lovers, which is great. Chickens are awesome. What's that? Oh, wow.
Pieces. One of my pieces of art. I'll lift it.
That's amazing.
And this one?
That is brilliant.
This one, it's fairly large, so I'll just zoom out.
Yep, zoom out. Oh, that's incredible.
I can't see. Is that on screen?
Yeah.
Yep, that's on screen, and I can see 2 awesome chickens. And what's in the middle?
It's the translator.
Ah.
There we go. So what's sort of behind this piece is that chicken represents me.
Right that.
There we go. Okay, so I call this piece the translator. A tribute to Professor Tony Atwood from his episode featuring on the Australian story called Found in Translation, The Symbolic Me. The translator is a representation of Professor Tony Atwood being able to decode the Asperger's autism spectrum brain. Tony is also able to translate everyday life into meaning for the Asperger's individual. This is why Mr. Atwood is my go-to guy. It's nice to have someone who understands how and why your brain works the way it does, and is able to offer strategies so you can function in everyday life that most people take for granted. Mr. Atwood is the Isaac chicken, and I'm the crazy Polish chicken with the crazy head.
I can't wait to Tony Atwood sees this. We'll definitely tag him, because I think that is such a beautiful message and piece of work, Summer. Love it. I love that it's in the background. Keep it there. Someone sent in a message saying, what a beautiful message, Summer, of self-acceptance and doing what you love. Thank you, Summer.
Thank you.
So I'm just wondering, you know, I've read a lot about your experience at school, and I'm wondering if you had a message for teachers or schools on what you think they could do to better support our tribe. What would it be?
It came on the screen of my notes.
That's okay. And while you're getting ready, someone said, love your artwork. Your artwork is incredible. Wow, just wow. Amazing.
Whoa. Where is
So you do distant education.
Oh, yeah. At the moment, I am doing distant education.
Yep, okay. Hi, Mum. So how is that working for you, distance education? What do you like about it?
I really do like doing distant education because so what happens is you just go online, you go into class. There are a bunch of other kids in your same class, and
Yep.
then the teacher will be there talking, and then there's a little computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whiteboard, and then she, he, whoever the teacher is, can just put anything on the whiteboard, and then that's just how it goes. Then we answer questions, and it's the same as being there in school. It's just online.
Okay, and that works for you?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's really good, I think, because it's so important for each person to find out what works for them.
Mm.
Did you have any other comments you wanted to read out from your computer?
Yeah,
No,
that was
yeah.
a question too.
Oh, yeah.
Our support, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the question around parents?
The best thing that someone can do for you is to help you work out your interests and then put whatever your interests are into whatever you want to do, so that you can enjoy doing anything.
Wow, that's so true, and a simple answer, but so important. And I think parents, you know, we've heard it a few times today, Summer, from other speakers, and it's good to hear it from you as well, that use your interests to help, you know, help create so much in the world. And even as a child or an adult, interest-based is so important. Someone asked a question. I don't know if you've got a chance to answer this now, Summer. You can think about it and answer later if you want. Do you have a message for a 9-year-old ladybug who is about to begin the homeschool journey?
What I'd say is that I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Homeschools, it might also not work out for you. It might work out, might not. It's just, if it works out for you, that's good, and keep on doing it. If you don't like it, you can go back to, what school would you call it? It's not
Mainstream.
homeschool.
No,
Mainstream.
just mainstream.
Mainstream.
Yeah. So if it's not working out, you always can go back. That's
You're not
definitely
just
good
stuck.
advice. And someone said, why, and I don't know if this is for Summer or Mum, because whoever wants to answer it, Summer, why did you choose distance education over mainstream?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, sorry. I'm Summer's mum. Sorry for butting in. Because I can read the questions that people are asking. The reason why we chose homeschool was simply because Summer is an academic. She loves learning, but the issue is a whole social thing in the playground. As far as interact.
You said isn't academic.
Yeah, sorry, is academic. Sorry, I apologise. Anyway, so all the social issues and trying to understand, you know, the social circle, understanding all those things would take up her time at school mentally on trying to navigate that. So if attending online classes, it sort of cuts that bit of social stuff out where she can focus on on her schoolwork. And
but there's still other kids there, and you can still make friends. It's just they can't pull you aside and be all, you smell bad, I hate you.
Yeah, that sort of thing. It cuts those things out so she can focus. So her academic levels have gone gone up even more because she can sort of channel into that. At first we found it quite overwhelming learning the whole Blackboard Collaborate, all the computer side of things, but now that we've sort of got that under control, yeah, I would actually say it's probably the best thing that we've done.
That's great. And you know, Summer, that is so good that you've got that opportunity to be able to do that. Well done to everyone. And we want school to be a place where everyone has that choice and not feel like they have to homeschool. And so thank you for sharing that, because we know so many of our members trying to make that decision. Not everyone has that opportunity, but it's great to hear that it's working for you, Summer. And I love once you had a video, and we'll share it again, of, you know, when people don't say nice things to you, what your response is. I loved it. I loved how you pulled the note out of the back pocket and read it. Your responses are amazing.
Invisible notes.
Exactly.
They're so trusty.
So what would you say to anyone maybe having a hard time at school with bullies or people who are saying some things that aren't nice? What would you want our girls to do?
Well, it kind of depends what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
If they're just trying to get on your nerves, like a lot of kids at school would say, oh yeah, you know what I'm having for dinner? Roasted chicken. I'm like, okay, you go and do that. That's them trying to get onto my nerves, really. So I just sort of sarcastic comeback in your face.
Exactly.
And it became so repetitive that they came up to me one day and said, guess what I'm having for dinner? I'm like, oh, whoa, let me take a guess. Is it roasted chicken? Who would have thought? I thought you'd be sick of it by now. See ya.
Yay. Great response. Fantastic. And I think some of your other responses in your video, again, we're going to share it because it's so good to show your kids. Your answers are just spot on. And the way you role play it is beautiful.
Because you're just told to ignore them, but some kids will just keep on going and going and going forever.
Yeah.
So I just come to the point where I don't ignore them. I just sarcastic come back in your face them.
Yeah. So many people are commenting on your artwork. So please share more. Like anytime you want to share that with us, we'd love to share it. We could talk to you all day, but we just have so many other speakers to talk to. Is there anything final you wanted to say for Go Yellow?
Turn my mouse around so I can use it. No, just checking my notes.
Yep.
Trusty real notes. My trusty real notes. These ones.
Notes are good, Summer, and we're proud of you for using that and showing people that there's more than one way of using information. So thank you.
The only other thing I can say is use your superpower. Don't hide it. Enjoy being you.
What a lovely way to end that. Enjoy it. Use your superpower. From Summer, Chickens to Love. Check her out. I really recommend it for you, and how beautiful it is to see younger and younger autistic voices speaking up and sharing their message. And we're proud of you today being our youngest speaker. Thank you so much. You had a lot to share, and we'll check you out again and we'll share more information in the future. Thanks, Summer.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Summer Mum.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. Okay. Okay, it says we're streaming live now. Thanks for joining me, Krista from Neurodivergent Rebel. Love the name, love the name. And we're so grateful to have you here with us today because so many people requested you to speak. So how good is it that we've got a hold of you? Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. I'm really glad you got a hold of me too. I love the Yellow Ladybugs and I've been creeping on you guys for a while, so it's really an honor.
And we love sharing your stuff and we will continue to share it. So if anyone is listening and wants to check out Krista's stuff, go to Neurodivergent Rebel and we'll make sure we tag it as well because Really good insights. Thank you. So I'm not sure how you want to do this, but I'm happy for you to sort of answer or put any information out there. But I've got a few questions that were sent in. So might jump into the deep end.
Sure.
So just thinking from your own perspective, what would you want the current generation of autistic girls and women to know, or what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. So I would say, you know, number one, don't worry so much over what other people think of you. I'm sure that's something you hear a lot, but it's really true.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I would say is, you know, just don't fight against, you know, your nature, your autistic nature. Just learn, you know, really what that means to you, so you can go with that and use it to be something that's empowering. And then I would say also, learn to prioritize, you know, self-love and self-care, even if people sometimes give you a hard time about it. Oh, you know, you stayed home the other night, why are you know, but if you need that, you know, another part of that's too, being able to really boldly advocate for whatever your needs are, your sensory needs and accommodations, and then taking the time to learn how to explain what those needs are. So like even people on the outside, you know, people who don't know anything about autism or sensory processing differences can understand it, because, you know, the fact is, unfortunately, most of the general human population doesn't really understand autism or the autistic experience yet. We're working on it yet.
Yes, yeah, good point. And you talked a bit about their self-advocating, and it's something that's come up in our talks today. It's, you know, such a great tool, but not everyone has mastered it yet. And I'm wondering, is that something that you have been developing? Is there different ways that you do it? Is it always verbal, or have you worked out how to, you know, ask for things that you need?
Yeah, I would say, you know, it's been a bit of trial and error. For sure, when I was first diagnosed, it wasn't as graceful always, trying to figure out how to explain what I needed and why I really needed it, because, you know, sometimes people would get this, oh, well, I want that too, why should you have that, or why, you know, and you would get into those little situations where it wasn't always easy to say, you know, no, I really need this because, and I couldn't always explain myself. And a lot of that has, you know, come from explaining it over and over again. And then my videos have helped me a lot learn to explain all of this stuff, because I've forced myself to learn to explain it. But then also, you know, reading blogs from other autistic adults and reading, you know, other comments from other autistic people, because sometimes, you know, you may be experiencing something and you're really struggling just to put it into words. And then you'll read someone else say it and you're like, yeah, that is pretty much what I'm exactly living through. And it's like an aha moment. And then all of a sudden you can take it and put it in your own words and say, well, this is how that relates to my experience. And it's like you have these little aha moments. But at first, you know, I was late diagnosed. So I wasn't diagnosed till I was 29. And I didn't even have the vocabulary or understand, you know, sensory processing or any of that.
That is a brilliant point. And Ebony, our last presenter, said that she too uses memes or quotes that other autistic women have created, autistic people, and can send it, you know, where appropriate when you just don't have the words. I think that's great. And wow, wouldn't it be great if, you know, we could help at a younger age, now that girls hopefully are starting to get diagnosed earlier, to be able to do that.
Yeah. And we have a whole like missed generation, you know, of people my age and above. You know, I grew up in the 90s and everyone just thought everyone had ADHD back then. You know, that was what everyone at the schools was like, oh, they have ADHD. It was the new thing that they were throwing everyone at. And I know a lot of people that did, but my ADHD friends are different from me. We're definitely not the same. We're similar and we have a lot of things in common. But it's just really interesting how and older than me, that generation is just completely missed, you know. A lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned some self-care there, and someone wrote in with a question saying, how do you shake any guilt that you may have of that?
You know,
you may not have guilt, but...
Well, you know, at first you can have guilt maybe, but, you know, that self-care is essential for me to be able to function well. And, you know, if I'm going to, you know, I try to do good things and help people whenever I can, but I can't do any good things or help anyone or do anything if I have depleted myself completely. And, you know, there's that saying, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
That's really applicable here. It's like you need to take care of yourself, or in the airplane, they say, put the mask on the person, you know, on yourself first and then the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any other tips before we move on to the next question?
Oh, no, we can jump into the next one, I think.
Okay, let's jump right in. One of my favorite topics, because Yellow Ladybugs definitely loves to focus on shining a positive light, strengths. We don't minimize the challenges, but, you know, where energy goes, energy flows. So what's your strengths?
I love that.
Yeah, what makes you?
Oh, I love that so much, because that's one of the things, you know, that's in my talk. I'm talking about how important it is to really help people focus on the strengths, because it's really easy for us to see our own weaknesses with a magnifying glass. Anyone you see it, you're like, oh. So focusing on strengths, that makes me so happy, because the weaknesses are there and we need to be aware of them, but it shouldn't take up our mind. I would say, you know, my strengths, probably my biggest one would be my just ability to focus on any project that I enjoy working on. You know, when I get tunneled in, you know, I it's, you know, nonstop until it's done. And employers love this. You know, if I'm doing a job I love, it can be a really good skill. And then at the same time, you know, this focus can really translate into a strong need to solve problems. So problem solving is kind of another thing that's a forte for me, because, you know, when there's a problem and I get focused on it, you know, I can't just put it away. Even when I go do something else, it's going to keep floating back into my head until I've solved it. And sometimes it's annoying, but I think it's definitely a skill, because it means, like, you know, I'm going to solve the problem, because I can't put it down. I've got to figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. And Hannah Gatsby released the quote saying that we've got such great problem solving minds. It's hard not to get anxious with all of the world's problems.
Oh, it is true.
Day, right?
The world on your shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, you know, seeing that even in younger girls as well as women, it's hard to see them so anxious. So, you know, use it to your strengths and wisely. I love that. And employers, you know, need to embrace that as well and understand that strength.
Yeah. And the workplace is hard too. There's a whole other, you know, sorting all that out.
That's a massive topic, and we need to address that, because why not make it accommodating, supportive, sensory friendly, you know, for all needs, so we can benefit from these amazing strengths.
That
Such
could be
untapped potential.
An hour. You and I could do an hour just talking about the workplace.
Well, let's do that. I'm locking you in. We will, when it quiets down, we have to, because there's just such a missed opportunity for our tribe. We've got so much to offer the world, and so many strengths. And there's this gap between being able to use those skills and, you know, in such a positive way. We need more of it. We need more understanding.
To just be able to bend a little bit, you know, it's like, is this what I can do for you, but this is what I need in return, kind of a thing.
Absolutely. So we had a comment in saying, so appreciative of you, Krista, and all the autistic women and adults helping our teens and girls. Thank you so much. We're so grateful, and we have so many people thumbs up and all of that, because it's just beautiful. So thanks for sharing those strengths. I think many people will resonate with them, and hopefully we can encourage everyone to focus on those, as well as, you know, without that critical lens that we often have.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I'm just curious if you can think back. I know you said you weren't diagnosed until you're an adult, and obviously family do the best they can at the time with the information they have. But what would have helped you, and I guess this helps all current parents, what would have helped you as an undiagnosed autistic girl or with your needs?
So I would say, you know, looking back, you know, hindsight is 20/20. So if they would have known, you know, I would say, you know, I grew up, you know, like I was saying, I didn't have the vocabulary, you know, to explain sensory needs. I didn't know I had sensory needs even, really. And so really to help your kids understand their sensory needs And then the other thing is, you know, some of that emotional stuff, you know, other than the basic, you know, happy, sad, good, mad, bad kind of thing, you know, I also, and, you know, kind of it led me to my diagnosis though, was I just had a lot of anxiety that I'd been dealing with my entire life, but I didn't even know I had anxiety. I didn't really even understand what anxiety was, you know, and I'm having all these physical symptoms of it. And even when I'm going and the doctor's telling me, you have anxiety, I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't. You know, later, eventually I'm like, okay. And then I realized what it is and learned to, you know, cope with it and deal with it. But I just think there's a lot of wasted years of my life where I didn't know that was going on. And, you know, the anxiety kind of gets the best of you over and over again until you learn to cope with it better. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, so it sounds like that whole self-awareness and self-awareness can lead to acceptance and being kinder to yourself, and building in those strategies and tools to help you begins with understanding more. That's some good advice, and we do hope, you know, parents do the best they can, but ensuring that our girls do get the chance to understand how they're feeling is so important. And you didn't mention this, but another panelist did, alexithymia, I always pronounce that wrong. Not being aware of how you feel. It needs to be discussed more and supported, because it all begins there.
Yeah.
So going on from that question, you know, I'm not sure what your schooling years were like, but what would you have loved for schools, or, you know, schoolmates, any of that?
Oh gosh.
Such a big topic.
Yeah, that's another one that could be an hour. But no, you know, unfortunately, a lot of autistic people have had similar experiences where school just wasn't a happy place. Unfortunately, when I did public mainstream education, I spent time in both special ed and in gifted classes. You know, I've done both. And, you know, spending time in all three classrooms, I wouldn't even say that any of the three were the right option for me. And, you know, I got in trouble a lot. Teachers, you know, I feel like, you know, sometimes, you know, they would hold me to a really high standard because I would do really well on standardized tests. And then I also spoke in a very adult way. And, you know, I wasn't actually as mature as I sounded all of the time. And I got, you know, these comments, you know, from adults like, oh, you're too smart for this and you should know better. But really, I wasn't. I was just as immature as all the other elementary school kids, you know, despite my vocabulary. So a lot of misunderstandings there with school. You know, teachers are just frustrated, like, you know what, she's just acting out, or just misunderstandings. Yeah, and then the sensory.
Well, that's a big point, misunderstanding. And from a sensory perspective, what could have helped you? I'm sure now, if you think back.
Well, you know, oh gosh, it's hard. You know, it's hard because, you know, certain tools that I have now, you know, like you know, if it's bright, like these lights in here, I can sit under them for a little bit, but if I'm under them too long, I'm gonna need sunglasses. You know, but in school, you know, the teacher, you're not allowed to have sunglasses at school. Back when I was in school, you know, you weren't allowed to have STEM toys. And, you know, I had a teacher once that tied my feet to my chair because my feet were moving. You know, before that, it was like you're doing stuff with your hands on your desk, you're tapping your pencil, she's gonna come over and smack you on the back of the hand, you know. Small town Texas, you know, 20 years ago. Gosh, maybe longer.
That's
But I mean, so anything's got to be better than, you know, my school experience. I think teachers can't get away with a lot of that stuff nowadays. Knock on wood somewhere, you know.
Well, we will knock on wood because we still do hear of stories, and you know, I don't know if our work will ever be done on this, but you know, teaching our girls or autistic people to be aware of their rights and to be able to find a way to self-advocate is so important, so that, you know, how dare they tie your feet up? How dare they tell girls not to tap or twirl their hair or bite their nails? It's just very frustrating. But we had a comment come in saying, wouldn't it be great if you could harness your focus on self-care and self-love? Special interest yourself.
Yeah, right?
Ironic. Someone wrote hashtag irony.
Yes.
The irony of that.
But that would be all I did then.
Yeah.
24/7.
You do it well.
I would be the best at it, yeah.
What are some of the practical ways that you have self-care? What do you do to, avoid autistic burnout or
Oh yeah.
burnout socially?
So I would say, really scheduling, those quiet times. I try to have an hour a day where it's just kind of some quiet time, either if it's just in the morning when I just wake up and, everybody's asleep, or, maybe I might take one of the dogs and go for a walk. Walking and moving, physical activity for me can be really helpful. It really gets things going. Music, so much music. I sing terribly. I can't dance. I have no rhythm, but I don't care. It feels good, so I'm going to do it. And even my diagnosing psychologist was like, yeah, you should have more music. It's good for anxiety. It's good for everything. Do music. And I was like, cool. My music prescription.
And do you have this, what's your favorite song? Do you play on repeat or do you?
It depends on my mood because, I am really sensitive to music. So if I want to have a specific mood or I want to feel a certain way, I can pick a song that will give me that feeling. So it's like, if I want to feel kind of like pumped up a little bit, like I'll get on some like Casey Musgraves, which is kind of like a little bit Southern girl country kind of stuff. And it feels like home a little bit. She's a little bit rebellious and a little sassy and sarcastic. So I like that because I'm like, okay, I'm so sassy and sarcastic. So I put her on, or, if it's the other day I did a presentation and I did a 30-minute talk and I did some stuff with some parents. And I just had so much extra energy in me. And as I'm driving home, I need to get it out. And this is less common. I put on Metallica and I'm just like, just something with that energy to get them. Sometimes I can't listen to Metallica. I can't do that all the time.
Yeah. On the flip side, would you describe yourself as an empath and do you have to monitor what you do, watch or listen to so that you don't absorb that energy?
Yeah, I would say yes. I was less so when I was younger. It's kind of interesting because, I remember when I was a kid, I wasn't. And then, I went and saw like a Hannibal with my mom and she couldn't not handle that movie. And I was like, oh, this is great, when I was before puberty. And I feel like as I'm growing and becoming a woman and since, becoming an adult and that's changed, I'm becoming more and more like my mother where, she's can't watch Titanic without hysterically bawling. And it's really sweet. Like she really and now I can't watch any movie where anyone is crying. I instantly start crying. It's like, no, stop. So it's like, I'm always like doing this.
Yeah. And even the news or hearing bad news, and we hear of autistic women saying it can stay with them for such a long time.
I don't watch the news.
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
I stopped.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important to protect your energy and the fact that you're aware of that. I think that's what we hear so much from our members, like knowing what can trigger you or add to, take a deposit from your energy bank is really important.
It's not worth it.
It's not
emotionally taxing, let it go. You don't need that.
That's good advice for everyone. Let things go. That's too emotionally taxing for you. Brilliant advice for anyone, but I think especially for empaths who absorb way more energy is really, really critical. Gosh, I honestly could talk to you all day. Is there any last comments that you wanted to make?
I don't have anything unless anyone else has any questions.
We've just had a lot of positive comments about it. And again, this is going to stay up on our page and people will be able to watch it time and time again in the future. So it's only just going to get more and more, people watching it, getting how incredible these insights are. And having a united voice is just amazing. Someone said, so brilliant, love your work and your art.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is I have silly t-shirts.
We love it. And honestly, we couldn't think of today without having you present. So thank you. We're so grateful.
I'm really glad I got to pop on so much. Thank you for having me.
Good luck with your presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be live on Facebook on the 6th at 2:15 Eastern in America, not.
Okay, well, on the end of this post, we'll put a link to it so that people can tune in, because this is just like hitting the tip of the iceberg, having such a short discussion. But, you know, you can follow each of our presenters to get direct insights, because there's nothing better than hearing directly from autistic people, as we've said. And thank you. That's what we really are about. So thank you so much for joining us on Go Yellow Day. And and thank you again, and to everyone watching, thanks for your comments and support for the amazing neurodivergent rebel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Okay, thanks so much for joining us, Ebony. It's nice. It's good to see a familiar face. I've met so many new people today, and you're a Yellow Ladybugs ambassador, so thank you for joining us. And also, if anyone hasn't checked out, Ebony's got a Facebook page. You've got personalised approaches, and also your new one.
Yeah, just my speaker page, which is just Ebony Birchhanger.
Yep. And some of you may know Ebony from many of our panel lunches and our events, and always a very, very popular speaker. And at the symposium, you were amazing. So thank you for sharing your insights with our tribe.
That's all right, and thanks for having me today. It's been amazing. I've been listening all morning to all of the other wonderful, wonderful speakers and gained a lot out of their talks myself as well. So it's been great.
Oh, I'm glad. I think this is going to be a legacy video that's going to help so many people going forward. We were just saying, I don't think anything like this has been done before to unite our tribe around the world. So it's good that you're part of it, and we're grateful.
Thank you for organising it.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll jump straight into questions because we are short on time, but we'll do the full 15 minutes. But I want to hear as much from you as possible. What would you like the current and future generations, I know we've said it before today, to of autistic girls and women to know? What advice would you give them, Ebony?
So the main piece of advice that has just been, I guess, coming back to me and that has, I guess, developed and is becoming more rooted in me over the years, and has been in the last few years, is that you have a purpose. That's what I want everybody to know, whether they're young girls, teenagers, young adults, or older adults that have recently been diagnosed, or maybe not even been diagnosed yet. You do have a purpose, and really just trust in the fact that you do have a purpose, and you will find it one day. The world needs diversity. Conversations, debates, change, acceptance wouldn't happen if everybody was the same. So you have a purpose out there, and your purpose will be different from everybody else's. And so just trust in that fact that purpose is there and that you will find that one day. That would be my first message. The second thing, I just encourage everyone to communicate with people. That's something that I'm still learning to do very much so, is communicate about myself and communicate about my needs. And the more that I do that, the easier that process becomes. So let people know what's going on for you. Let people know how you're feeling as much as you can. Communicate to people what you need, because the more that you do that, I'm realising the more people actually start to listen to you. I've learned that people aren't used to me advocating for myself. My family are not used to me speaking up for myself. They're not used to me talking about my needs. And so they're still having a hard time with me doing that. And it's been difficult for me to continue to do that. But once you get started, the more that you continue to do it, the easier it becomes, and the more that your family and friends and people around you will actually start listening to you once they get used to the fact that you've actually developed the confidence to start advocating for yourself. So that's just really important, that if you just start doing it, no matter what age you are, start, and it will get easier over time.
And on a practical level, what are some ways you can advocate? You know, sometimes I know I've heard you say it doesn't always have to be verbal requests.
Yeah, so even something that I've been doing recently is just even when I find little video clips, whether it be YouTube clips of other people on the spectrum or little articles or little quotes that maybe other people have written. It doesn't always have to come from me. When I find something that somebody else has said or written that resonates with me, I'll just send it in a text message to someone, or I'll share the video with them through Messenger and not even say anything else, just allow them to read it or look at it in their own time. And then often they come back to me and say, oh, you know, that thing you sent me a couple of weeks ago, I realised that that relates to you in this way, and now I understand you more. So that can be one way of doing it. Even just sending text messages, I'm getting, again, better at communicating with, whether it be family, my husband, etc. Even if it's just that I'm feeling really exhausted at the end of the day, just sending a text message and saying, had a really hard day today, just letting you know, not going to be in the mood to talk much tonight. And by sending that in a text rather than having to communicate it verbally, it takes the pressure off for me, but also lets the other person know who's going to be in your space, how you're going to be when you get home.
That's a really good message, and I think that can even translate to some of the younger girls who don't have a phone. Is there a non-verbal way they can communicate? A note, maybe a little letterbox that you could have in the house that they can pop in, or even the classroom, having another way that they can communicate to their teacher or even classmates that's not necessarily verbalised.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be in an item, or as you say, something that they post in a box. It could be something like a colour. You know, you might be able to let your teachers know or let your family members know that, you know, you can have a piece of paper with you and you can just scribble a certain colour on it as a child, and that particular colour means something to that adult walking past.
That's a really good bit of advice, Ebony. Very practical. Thanks. I think a lot of people will take that message on. Colour is so powerful, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Good way. Yellow.
Go yellow.
That's some really good advice, and I think that's great. What's some of your strengths? I know this has been an interesting question for so many of our members today or panelists. What's some of the strengths you think that you've got?
Definitely the number one would be attention to detail. Now that has caused me some challenges over time, because I often correct other people when I feel that they haven't done things what I see as the right way to do it. But although it sometimes causes challenges with other people in certain situations, it has certainly allowed me to be successful and have a successful professional career. You know, I notice things that other people just don't notice, or that other people just don't see as important. I notice really small things that actually do change the meaning of a sentence or an image or a situation. And sometimes when I explain that to people, they actually realise, oh, now I understand, now I can see how important that minute detail was. And I've often had people over the years coming to me as their go-to person for whether it be editing something or reviewing something or making sure that all the steps in a process have been completed, they know that they can come to me to get that you know, reassurance if they need it. So attention to detail would definitely be one thing, and that's allowed me to be successful through schooling and through, as I say, all my professional careers. So that's probably my number one. I'd say my number two is commitment, particularly commitment to tasks or events, etc. So probably if you ask anyone who knows me and has known me for a long time, most people would say I just go above and beyond what is required most of the time. Again, that can be a challenge in that sometimes I don't give myself enough self-care. And I do push myself too far, and I'm learning to balance that now. But it's definitely always been a positive. Again, people come to me and ask for me to contribute to events or ask me to contribute to things that they're working on because they know I will do a really good job of it and put in 100% effort. So those are two things that, as I say, not just I have felt that are my strengths, but that other people have commented. And I think when other people tell you that you do those things well, then you can actually be reassured that yes, they are my strengths because other people recognise them too.
That's true, very true. And I think it'd be great if, as a community, for our younger girls even, to start that process of getting them to identify what their strengths are so that they know that and can use that. Some of yours are very relatable, and you know, people are saying, yep, definitely, those strengths are relatable. So I know we've done a lot of topics on discussion on these points with you, so happy to share previous work. But in a nutshell, what could have parents, you know, or family in general or personally have done to make your experience, you know, growing up more accommodating and supported?
I think just so for people that don't know, you know, my family wasn't aware because I wasn't diagnosed till the age of 28. So they did everything that they could, not knowing that they really needed necessarily to be doing anything differently. I think what I would have liked them not necessarily to do, but to understand, and this is still relevant today, is that I've always just done what I've needed to do to get through my days. And I've always done my best. So if there's been times where I've done things that have upset people or that have offended people or that have confused people or annoyed or frustrated people, that certainly hasn't been intentional. And I think that's really important for other parents to know as well, because there will be times where your child will frustrate you and you'll be pulling your hair out thinking, oh my goodness, they're just trying to make my life difficult and miserable. They're not. They're just doing the best that they can to get through their day. In a really unpredictable world. And you as a parent, particularly if you're an autistic parent of an autistic child, you are doing your best as well. It was interesting because I had a friend of mine, I spoke at the Source Kids Disability Expo on the weekend, and I had a surprise visitor, which was a really good friend of mine from high school that I'd unfortunately lost contact with, which has happened with most of the friends that I've had over my life. And we hadn't spoken for about 7 years. And she was just there at my talk, and I had no idea she was there until the end of it, until she came up to me and she just said to me, wow, I had no idea. And she said, if only I'd known, I could have supported you more, I could have interacted with you differently. She even said, I would have put in more effort. She said, you never wanted to come out. You often didn't return messages and phone calls. It didn't seem like you were interested in maintaining the friendship. She said, if only I'd known, I would have put in more effort as well to let you know that I was still here. So I think that message of just letting parents know, and other family members and friends, that we are doing our best. We're just doing what we need to do to get through the day. And if you can understand that, you can give us more support as well, which also allows us to reciprocate the relationship more, because we feel validated and respected and like we can trust you. And then we can also put in more effort on our side as well to maintain those relationships.
That's a really good point, and we won't touch on it today, but when we release our video from the panel lunch, you talk about executive function and getting back to people, and there's so many parts to play in that. Maintaining friendships that people just don't understand. It's not always you don't want to reply to someone. There's, you know, dig a bit deeper to get a true understanding of what's going on. But I want to end, because there's so much I could talk to you about, and I know we're tight for time, but you know, you helped us. You were one of the amazing autistic voices on our resource to support autistic girls at school. And a little plug, if you haven't downloaded it, it's free on our website. And great resource. But if you're thinking back to your school days, Ebony, what is one thing you would desperately have wanted your teacher at school to do to best support you?
Probably two things stand out. And the first one is that nonverbal communication, which we've mentioned before, but I'm going to keep mentioning it because it's just so
it's important. A good message. If I had have had the opportunity to have just a notebook between myself and all of my teachers, I would have really happily communicated with them about any challenges I was having through that notebook. But I didn't do it verbally. Even when I was asked by teachers if I needed help or support, and again, teachers didn't know that there was any reason that I needed extra adjustments, but if teachers ever asked me a question like they would other students, I'd just say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay, I don't need help, etc. So if I had have had a teacher write me a little note in a journal,
I would have been very happy to continue that conversation with them through that method. So just that nonverbal communication is so important. You know, psychology, I've seen a few psychologists over the years, and I've never really continued with it. And a lot of family members now can keep saying to me, you know, it's probably really important. You really should be seeing a psychologist to get help with all of your challenges, etc. Psychology hasn't worked for me. And a big reason why it hasn't worked for me is because I don't want to sit across from someone and speak about myself for an hour or speak about the things that are difficult for me. It's just really challenging to communicate that verbally. So I'm still on the lookout yet to find a health professional that can support me in that way by communicating non-verbally would be excellent.
There's a business idea, Ebony.
Yeah, it is. The second thing I would say, which was really a big one for me, would have been encouraging me to show them my assignments and my projects along the way. Because I always do that, going above and beyond and often doing more than I need to, you know, even in the early years of high school, years 7 and 8, I would be up till 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning doing and redoing projects and assignments. If the teachers hadn't been able to say to me, look, bring in your assignment and show it to me on Monday, and then show it to me again on Wednesday, and show it to me again on Friday, and then they would have had the opportunity to say, Ebony, you can stop. You've done enough now. You don't actually need to do any more work. That would have saved me a lot of sleepless nights and saved my mother a lot of sleepless nights as well. So yeah, those two things, the non-verbal communication and just making sure I wasn't going too far overboard and pushing myself too far with the work when it wasn't actually necessary.
Yeah, and I know you talk a bit about perfectionism and near enough is good enough, and that's a really powerful message you've used before as you're learning to embrace that in life. Yeah. You know, as I said, Ebony's, we're so lucky to have access to your insights and to hear from you, because you know, you put it in such a great practical way, and you blend both your professional experience and your personal one. And so we can't wait to share more from you. And, you know, it is coming out on our website, but what you've shared today, even in the 15 minutes we've discussed, has covered so many areas. We had some comments saying, yes, communicate your needs. It's a great message. Such a great message, Ebony. Thank you. And someone else has said, such a great message, Ebony. Just trying to get through the day. Spot on. That's exactly what so many people are trying to do. Autistic women, autistic girls, just getting through the day. Don't take it personally. It is what it is. So really good feedback from our community on what you've presented today. Was there any final thoughts that you wanted to mention, or?
Yeah, I just guess to finish with that, again, no matter what age you are, whether you're a young child, older child, teen, young adult, older adult, a couple of other speakers today have mentioned it, but it resonates with me as well, and is certainly true for me. I think a lot of us are very, very intuitive. We're highly intuitive, and we're often very self-aware. And we often do that reflective thinking, that thinking over and over again, reflecting on what we've said, reflecting on what we've done. And I've learned that often what I think in such a self-doubting way about what I might have done or said that I shouldn't have it isn't often true. I create scenarios in my head that I think other people are viewing me in a negative light. And it's actually not the case. So I just encourage you to trust your intuition, absolutely. But when that reflective self-doubt comes through, just know as well that there's your tribe elders, I guess, out there letting you know that self-doubt isn't something you have to trust. Trust your intuition, but let the self-doubt go, because what you are feeling inside you isn't always correct. And a lot of people out there will be viewing you in a much more positive light than you view yourself, and allow yourself to take in that positivity and allow yourself to trust that there are people who believe in you, there are people that love you and that accept you for who you are and that want to support you, and just run with that and run with that positivity and allow it in, and allow yourself to believe in that positivity that you will get from some people out there.
And great advice, Ebony, and I hope that's something that you also take for yourself, because we do have your back. We love you. This is a safe place. So many people value what you do, and we're so grateful for that. We had someone say the notebook concept's great. I never could figure out how to answer the question, how are you? What's the problem either? I think that's one of the things us elders can do for our ladybugs, let them know what we've learned, and what we've learned is not supposed to happen, even though it did. You know, and it's good in hindsight, all of this stuff, but it's great to think about. But this is, by you spreading your message, Ebony, will help so many people. And that's what we're here today to do. So thank you. It is going to, honestly, hopefully this gets out there more and more. What you send is a great message, and Go Yellow, what a good way to bring us all together and have this message today.
Absolutely. And Katie, I just wanted to say thank you to you as well. You are doing an amazing job. All of the speakers, we've got our 15-minute time slot, but you are there doing this all day today, and I know Catherine's there helping you as well. And for you to be on screen all day without a break is just amazing. So make sure you look after yourself tonight as well, because you deserve it.
Thank you, Ebony. That's very, very grateful. And as an empath, I know, and you would know, it's a lot of energy, but it's all been so positive. It's uplifting me now. Lots of downtime tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you so much, Ebony, and we'll hear more from you. Absolutely. Coming up. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it should be streaming live now on Facebook. I'm going to try and monitor questions, guys. So anyone who has any questions, please send them through. And I'm going to try and juggle this both at the same time. So welcome, Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. You have been an amazing role model for our tribe. You were involved in the This Is Me video. You kindly you recorded that. So if anyone hasn't checked it out, Google This Is Me, Yellow Ladybugs. It's with Princess Aspian, and Hannah was behind the scenes helping us work all that out, which was brilliant. Thank you, Hannah, for lending us your talents.
No worries.
And you've also spoken at a panel event of ours, and we had some great feedback. So we've brought you back so that we can find out a bit more about you. So I'm just wondering, you're free to share anything at all. We did have a few pre-sent in questions, which we can go, but we might go off script as well. We'll have to fit in 10 to 15 minutes, so jump right in. So I'm wondering what you would like to know, what you would like the current tribe to know about, you know, being on the spectrum. Is there any bit of advice or tips that you would want to give?
I think my biggest thing is just keep talking about it. If like a lot of people, and I struggle with this myself, a lot of people are uncomfortable telling other people about their diagnosis, or if they're not diagnosed, that, you know, they think they might be on the spectrum. That's something I struggled with for a while, and I still sometimes do, but I really don't think that we need to be ashamed of being on the autism spectrum. I think the more conversations we have about it, the better. So I think if you are someone who's on the spectrum, absolutely talk to people about it and let people know. And I think it's a really great thing to just keep having discussions. The best advice I have is just talk about it.
That's really good advice. And what we've seen in the last couple of years at Yellow Ladybugs is just so many more people starting to have that conversation through Facebook on their pages, and, you know, in a style that suits them, through written language or however they want to express it, comedy shows, you know. For you, I know you've done your way of communicating through your art and comedy, through the video. So really good advice, actually. So anyone listening, please feel the confidence, or, you know that what you have to say is worthy.
Absolutely.
People want to hear it. So the more conversation, as Hannah said, the better for our community. And so one of the other questions, Hannah, is, and I'm not sure if I've given you much time to reflect on this, it can get deep, but What are some of your strengths, Hannah? Because we've heard so many amazing panelists talk about, you know, something that they've noticed, you know, being autistic has given them the ability to do some amazing things. What have you felt for yourself?
I think one of my strengths that come with being autistic is one that, as you all know, a lot of people think that's a strength that we don't have, which is empathy.
Yes.
I've always heard, especially from my mum my whole life, that I'm very fortunate that I am quite good at reading other people and understanding other people's feelings, and that really helps me with making friends and meeting new people. And I've always been the person in the group that other people come to for advice and things, not typically what other people would expect of an autistic person. If they don't realize that a lot of us are that person. A lot of us are the
Absolutely.
person you come to. A lot of us are the person who notices things and understands other people a lot. I think that's definitely my biggest strength.
And what a good way that you're discussing it today, because we're trying to break those stereotypes today about the fact that people think that, you know, you can't be autistic because you've got empathy.
Yeah.
You know, we hear it's the opposite in terms of tuning in with others' emotions. So, really good point. Any other strengths? You got a lot.
Any other strengths? Ooh.
What's your passion? Well, what are you passionate about? Because you've got some amazing passions.
Yeah, I mean, comedy and performing is, of course, my biggest passion. I love, I just love talking.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and that's something that's not expected as well. If I doing comedy and then telling people that I'm autistic, people don't understand how the two go together, which is interesting. Because I love being able to share things with lots of people, and that's one of the reasons I do comedy, is just so I can, you know, share my thoughts and feelings with the world. And I like using that platform that I have to talk about important things as well. I've been working on things, hopefully being able to use that platform as a comedian to talk about autism.
Yeah.
And that's a big passion. That's something I love.
That's great. And I think you're right. Again, another misconception that we're breaking down today. We've heard from so many different panelists, and yes, so many do prefer written, but there's other autistic people who prefer, you know, speaking and presenting and talking. So it really shows how individual we all are and how important it is not to have set ideas and expectations around everyone. Everyone's an individual.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could go back in time and think about either home or school. What's something that you would have liked to happen even at school or at home, maybe to give you a bit more support around any of your needs that you had? I don't know if it was sensory or around friendships or around executive functioning. Just what's something that maybe could have helped you, you know, with more support?
I think, I think for me a big thing would have been school and the staff at my school. We have the education support and integration aids at school, but they particularly would work with kids who needed funding, which is good. I think that teachers need to be more aware of the other students who might not qualify for funding, but still need someone to be aware and still need someone to listen to them.
Yes. Because
if you're not necessarily a kid who needs the funding, but you still need something, you still need that attention, and you're not getting it. I think that's something I really struggled with in school, and I think a lot of people do. And I think, you know, I know people who have worked at schools where the teachers think they know everything and they know everything about autism, but they really don't. And I think that I don't know if that comes down to more training or what, but I think keeping an extra eye out for kids that might need it. Or
that's a really good point, because I know teachers, you know, they've got so many competing needs, but it's like you've described, the kids who go under the radar sometimes. that miss out on that support. And so we appeal to anyone in that capacity to be able to check in on the kids that might go under the radar, because they equally need the support, but because they're not disruptive, they might not get that, you know, extra help that they could, because everyone deserves to reach their potential and have that support.
Yeah, there might be kids that sit there, you know, quietly in class and seem like they're going well, then they go home and break down later. And
we hear that too often. Important point. Yeah, and someone's just written in and saying such an important point, Hannah, about schools missing out on the kids that don't need funding. You know, it is so critical we get this out there. You know your rights as a parent, and teach our girls, as we've said all day long, to self-advocate as much as we can, because we don't want to slip under the radar, slip through the net. You know, it's critical. And I think I'm just mental blank, because you've said so many good points. Yes, the training with the teachers, the teacher training. You know, you know, the hardest thing is, like you said, is when teachers say, we've done our training, we know autism, don't need any more training. But yes, you do, number one. Yes. Number two, listen to autistic people who have had the lived experience, please. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
And that's why having your input today is amazing. So someone's asked in, what were some of the things that helped you get through those tougher times at school?
And not everyone has this, but definitely my family, my parents, and having, so I've got 3 older siblings, 2 of which are diagnosed with autism, and having them, their support, because they've both been through the same things as me. So having them and their advice, and having parents as well, was something that was really, really good. But if, you know, not everyone can find that in their family, if they can find that in friends, I think just having good people around me was something that helped me more than anything else. So even if that's only, I don't know, even if it's only one friend that someone has, just having someone that you can talk to is a really big thing.
No, and that's why finding a tribe for your children is so important. And it doesn't have to be at school. Yes, we should be trying to connect with as many positive people as we can around school, but outside of school, based on special interests, based on passions, based on, you know, a united journey. I'm glad to hear that you had that growing up. I mean, your mum's amazing, we know. Shout out to Leah, but that's such good insight, and so many people are saying yes. Thank you so much, Hannah. Very important message. I'm just wondering, we've got lots more to talk about, but I'd love you to talk a bit more about, you know, your journey through identifying as non-binary, or if you could explain that for our community, because it's something that we haven't addressed a lot, but I'd love to hear it directly from you, so that you know, we can learn and get educated from.
Sure. So if I'm sure most people have heard of the term transgender. So you can have people who are a transgender male and transgender female, and then you can also have everyone that's in the middle or outside of that, and that's non-binary. If you think of being a transgender male as the binary, and a transgender female as the binary, and then anyone outside of that or in the middle is non-binary, and that's where I and a lot of people sit. Yeah, and that just means not really identifying as either male or female, just being somewhere in the middle in your own separate gender. So that's what it means. That's something that I started thinking about for myself maybe around 2 years ago. And I started talking about that with peers maybe a year ago, and then with my family not so long ago. What else can I share about it?
Well, if you've got any advice, I mean, obviously it's such a new a new situation in terms of telling people, but is there any advice you would possibly give either to someone that is thinking the way you explored that process? What advice would you be to give to them, as well as to maybe parents?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, for parents, I think it's important to know that your kid, if they're going through something like this, really needs you and really needs a support person, and it's so important for you to try your best to be that person for them. Again, I was lucky that I've got my parents that have been that for me, and even though it can be a really confusing thing, a lot of parents can kind of see it as a bit of a trend or a phase or something, but I think parents just really need to listen to their kid and trust that this is a real thing that they're dealing with, and that they need your support, because as hard as it can be for a parent, think about how hard it is for the kid.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Lots of love hearts coming up on our Facebook on that point, and that's what we want to, make sure everyone listens to. So, I could talk honestly, Hannah. We have to do more together because I could listen to you all day, and there's a whole, honestly, a whole panel on this topic. I'd say
for sure.
Many of our members do want to understand this more, and it's something that we need to learn from. I think it's in its infancy in advocacy and understanding at this point. So I thank you for being a trailblazer in it so far and sharing this. Is there anything else? We've got maybe time for one last comment. We had a question from someone come in and say that their ladybug came to them and said they were a lesbian, and they wanted to get advice as well on what's the best way to support her at a young age sharing that information.
I'm not sure. I think it depends on how, I guess the age of the kid. I'm not sure if this exists for younger, but it definitely existed when I was a teenager, is that there are lots of groups that you can send your daughter to if you choose to, and if she wants to be a part of that. Lots of Queer Straight Alliance groups and things like that, and they should be things like Headspace. Headspace, they run one, and there are quite a few of those around in Melbourne at least, but I'm sure wherever you are, those types of support groups should exist, and it's a really great way for kids to make connections and with people that are similar to them. And a lot of schools are doing it now too. And if they don't exist, it can be really great for your child to be the person who starts that group. Having Queer Straight Alliance groups within the school. My school didn't have one, and I wish it did. I know a lot of people wish it did, but I know people who had that group or made that group at their school, and it ended up being a really great thing for a lot of students.
That's a great piece of advice to finish on, because I know we're running out of time, but, encourage, like with any advocacy or, self-acceptance approach, that's a really good bit of advice. Find a school that either has a safe place for them to learn and feel comfortable and safe, and if not, start something or try and change it. I think that's great. There may be more questions coming through later in the comments. If you're welcome to share that as people do watch this later and come back to it. But we've covered a lot of topics in 15 minutes. Any final comments, Hannah?
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Our pleasure.
To be a part of this. I think this is a really great day, and I'm really...
Well, I'll finish on some comments from the community. You're a legend, Hannah. Thank you so much. Such a valuable discussion. Thank you so much, Hannah. We value you. We validate everything you've gone through to be able to bring this. I know you've had a great support network with your family. We thank them and we honour them, and hope that in the future other families can follow that path. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And happy Go Yellow Day.
Hey, you too.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Oh, we're streaming live.
We're streaming live. Welcome, Christy. Yay. Thank you for joining us. So Christy is from In-Tune Pathways, and so blessed to have met her this year at some of our panel lunches. We're so grateful to find this diamond of knowledge and wealth. So welcome, Christy. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much. I feel so lucky and so grateful to have been participating in your events, because everything you work toward is so aligned with what we need as a community.
It's been really good, and the best thing has been finding these tribe elders, if you like. Makes us feel old, but the tribe elders that are so beautiful in sharing their stories to benefit everyone and future generations, and you're part of that. Thank you. But I want to jump right in, because there's, we've only got limited time, and you are someone that can put so much of your own story into it. So I just want to ask you, I guess, what sort of advice you would have, or what would you like for the current generation of our tribe, or future generations, or even the past?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, and I'm going to look around everywhere and you're going to be able to see that I'm autistic.
Look wherever you want.
That we are not by accident. We are not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a religious person, if you're a science follower, both of those will say that, we are not by accident. And it doesn't matter if there are textbooks out there, experts, programs, it doesn't matter who's saying that we might be, or that we might be a disorder, or that we're something that needs fixing and changing. There are many, many examples in history where literally millions of people have believed in things that have been very wrong. So I would encourage people to, I think that's what's so hard about being autistic, is that sometimes you feel like the whole world is against you and you feel completely isolated and completely alone. But there are so many of us out here. It is crazy. And I don't think that we are a minority. I really don't.
I don't either. And I think we are just on the tip of understanding that. It's going to be as common as knowing if you've got, someone told me this yesterday, if you're right-handed or left-handed, it's not any different.
Yeah.
Or
and
less.
Just on that, there was a time when we were trying to train children out of being left-handed too.
Exactly. Well, exactly. Right. Exactly. So any advice then, considering what you've just said, to people who may be feeling isolated or alone, or not feeling connected to their tribe? What advice would you give?
So there's two things about that. The first thing I'd say is, jump online, because there is a huge autistic community online. And even when you do find the autistic community, it might take some time to find your tribe within that tribe, because there are lots of different camps in the autistic community.
Can I just pause there? Can we just all take a collective pause online on that point, please? It is so important for you to listen to that. There are tribes within tribes. Not everyone is your people, and that even exists in the autistic community. So if you still haven't met your tribe within the community, keep looking, it will exist. Thank you so much for that comment, Christy. Big takeaway.
Well, it's the same as anything, isn't it? It's, same as having any interests or passions or any other identities. And the second thing about feeling isolated and lonely and disconnected is sometimes that's part and parcel of being autistic, and we all will have, times where we do go through that. And I accept 100% that will be lifelong for me, because I'm always going to be autistic. So I can be surrounded with lots of people that I identify with and I connect with, and there will be times in my life where I still feel disconnected and alone and isolated. but that's not forever. Everything passes. And I think it's important to know that also part of being wired the way we are is that there's an ebb and flow. And when you're a person like me, and specifically women, many women that I've met who are autistic are so deeply connected to their environment, to the world. You know, that little thing that Hannah Gadsby said this morning about our brains by nature being problem seeking, and the world is full of problems.
Yep. And we're empathetic too, so it's a double.
Yeah, so that level and of depth and intensity around how hard we feel and how deep we think, you know, that when you're that kind of person, there's going to be, when that's your yin, there's going to be a yang, and the yang is the darkness, and that will come and go. And I think if we look throughout history, we can see that so many mothers and grandmothers and aunts and sisters and cousins, so many women were put away in institutions because they couldn't cope with raising children, or they were having a hard time maintaining housework, or, you know, for so many different reasons with each generation. And we're learning more and more that they're autistic women. And
well, can I ask you on that point? You're saying that we're learning that they're autistic, but there's so many women misdiagnosed at the moment with bipolar, generalized anxiety disorder. Not that they can't be comorbid conditions, but just being told that you've got bipolar, schizophrenia, bipolar,
borderline personality disorder.
Probably said that twice. So many things with misdiagnosis. Someone's asked in and said, how important was the official diagnosis for you, or does it change anything about knowing that you're autistic?
Oh yeah, oh man, it changed everything. Look, everyone will answer differently about having a clinical diagnosis. I have two because I participate in research as well. But I knew before I went in there that I was autistic. Here's the thing, non-autistic people don't generally walk around thinking, oh, I wonder, may I be autistic? You know all of your life that you are different. You may not know that you're autistic, but there's this innate knowing that energetically, spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, you are different. And nothing shifted that for me. So I knew when my children started getting diagnosed, everything sort of started to fit together. But up until I knew I was autistic, I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought there was something wrong. And I spent my whole life trying to be normal, and I'm never going to be non-autistic. And I'm so glad that I know now, because I feel like I was wasting my life away not being who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah,
And it made a world of difference, definitely. Self-acceptance, liking myself. Yeah.
Self-acceptance is a big one, and liking yourself is huge, and it's the key to understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and a lot of people say for us, it's about knowing you are, not getting the official piece of paper all the time, because, you know, the diagnostic process can be such a exhausting to unpack it psychologically. It's very negative based driven in terms of your deficits.
Yeah.
You know, finding a tribe, knowing you're autistic, even self-diagnosed, is fully, you know, acceptable and can give you those keys to understanding.
Yeah.
We're going to run out of time, but I'm going to ask a few more questions. I know Shadia is waiting to come on board. Well, what are some of your strengths then? Because we've just talked about the deficits not being great when you're getting a diagnosis. What would you say some of your strengths are?
My strengths are the same as what I've always felt my burdens are, and that's my deep thinking and my deep feeling, because that makes me a helper. I've come here to be a helper, and it's just this drive that I have, that I want to help other people. And that can't be something that's wrong, you know. I'm happy to be that person, but yeah, I like that I'm so deeply connected. And again, just part of that is accepting that there will be ebbs and flows that go along with that.
I love how you said you flipped it. What you thought was your greatest burdens is your greatest strengths. So let's frame that as much as we can.
Yeah.
Even for the younger girls. Love it. Now we are getting short on time, but if you could think back, and I know the video from our panel is going to come out with all these amazing tips, guys, from Christy on school. But one of the questions was, what would you have desperately wanted your school or teachers to do to better support you when you were going through school?
So I left school when I was 15, and I'd spent a lot of time in isolation, on conduct cards, in behavioural programs, because I was so destructive, self-destructive. And an assumption was made that I was just a naughty kid. You know, nobody, what I would have liked, what would have helped was for somebody to see beneath the behaviour, to actually use the behaviour as a clue that something's going on. Because I can guarantee you, and I've been a teacher and I know, kids don't just behave that way because they want to behave that way. There's reasons, and there's so many different reasons. I couldn't cope in a classroom because of the sensory bombardment, the energies of other people. There was so much going on, and being female, the pressure to conform and to fit in and to have a group meant that I didn't have the mental, emotional space to be focused on what people go to school for. So my acting out in the classroom was a way of getting out of having to do any work or having to sit still. So I wish that teachers would understand that there's reasons for everything.
Yeah, all behaviour is communication. So I think that's a really important message to take home. We've got so many comments. One of my favourites, Christy, has always been my biggest mirror and influence in feeling validated. Someone said, wow, thanks so much, Christy. You're saying such wise things.
Thank you.
So a lot of people are resonating with your message. Is there any last comments that you want to leave with our community? Because we will touch base again.
I just want to say, being autistic for me is a gift. It's a gift. And I parent autistic children as well. And one of those girls happens to be non-speaking with high support needs, and that's a gift. For me, that's a gift. And it doesn't matter if there's a world out there saying that, you know, this is, again, a disorder or that we need fixing and changing. It's important for us to tune into ourselves and to be exactly who we are here to be. How many of us are going to be in our last days of life saying, geez, I'm glad I spent my life being approved of by everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, who
yeah.
wants to go out like that?
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
want to live the best life I can as the person that I am here to be.
Yeah, beautifully said, beautifully said. And people are, again, reacting to that, saying, yes, wow, so important. I think, you know, that's why you've used the word in tune as part of your, obviously, alignment to that message. Get in tune with yourself. In tune pathways, check it out, because Christy is just a wealth of information. And honestly, I could go on all day, but Shadi is waiting. And what an amazing lineup we've got. We're honestly, guys, please wait for the videos we're going to release with Christy. She's going to share so much information on masking. We didn't even unpack that, did we?
That's all right. That's fine.
I mean, in a nutshell, do you have anything you want to say on masking? Because you do present so much information on that.
Well, I'm masking now, to be honest. It's hard not to mask, and we've spent our lives. This is why people don't believe that we could be autistic, you know, when we look like you and I, because people think, how are you autistic? But people really don't understand that for many women and girls, it's an internalized experience. And there are things that I'm uncovering now, like stimming and rocking, and I find myself doing it and I have to challenge myself because I go, oh, don't do that, it's weird. But then I go, no, it's not. This is how you are supposed to move your body to be able to cope in life, to be able to come back into balance. It's not weird. It's not disordered. It's exactly who we are. It's organically natural for an autistic brain to message the body to move in those ways. So there's a lot of things about myself as an adult now that I have to undo, that masking and that pretending and that trying to look normal.
Yeah, I love it, Christy. And to give permission to yourself to do that, and for parents to understand that that's what our girls may need, or teenagers, or, you know, even once we, you know, our ladybugs grow up to be adults, just, you know, that's what they need. So please be accepting and understanding and supportive of that.
Absolutely.
That's a good message to end on, Christy. Thank you so much for joining us on Go Yellow. So grateful. What a lineup. Love you, love your work, and we'll definitely be sharing more and spending more time with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, and thanks for everyone for listening and commenting on this amazing presentation today. Thanks. Okay, we should be live now. Okay, welcome Shadia from Actually Autistic, an amazing page that you've created yourself, which we can hear about more in a minute. But if you haven't started following it, please do. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Katie.
We're really grateful. And if some of you don't know, Shadia spoke at our symposium, and the video is coming out shortly. Amazing insights, worth watching, and please make sure you do check in and watch that later when it's released. So because I want to get as much information from you as possible, I'm going to jump straight into the questions, but feel free to answer or discuss anything you want to bring to the table as well. So I just thought one of the biggest comments or questions we get asked is what you personally would like to let the current or future generations, you know, of our tribe know. What advice would you give them?
Don't be afraid to let your mask down would be my first one, because people who will love you without your mask. I liken unmasking like peeling back an onion, or when a crab sheds its exoskeleton, we've built up this really strong barrier, and taking it down is quite painful at times, but we can actually learn after we shed our exoskeleton, shed our mask, to learn how to filter out energies, because we can be vulnerable at that point. But you will find, I guarantee, when you let people in, you will find your tribe, and you will find people that embrace you for who you are. So that would be my first point of advice. Second point of advice, you cannot fix everyone. To be a bit selfish, surround yourself with people that make you laugh, make you happy, make you smile, make you flap, make you do what you want to do, be who you are. Follow your passions, and just because you're told you can't do something, or you know, something, don't let it stop you. Make it reality. Prove society wrong and follow your dreams. There'd be so many of us that have done this time and time again. And so that would be my main points, is don't just believe in yourself, be you, because it's beautiful.
Really good. Thank you for sharing that insight. And I think that what you said about drop the mask or take the mask off is so important, because even today, going through the process, you know, I welcome you to tell me anything you ever need to make today more comfortable. And so if you need to tap out because, you know, it's exhausting or you're stressed, this is what we should be encouraging, because we need to see it for ourselves that day-to-day situations can be stressful, and we need to ask for things that we need. So thank you for being real about that, Shadia. And, you know, I think as many women or adults or people get diagnosed, it's a self-discovery process of knowing what to ask for and when, and it's a journey. You know, when were you diagnosed? Yeah, you were younger, weren't you, Shadia?
I was 3 years old. So my mum was a big part of pushing for my diagnosis, as it were. But even back when I was younger, there wasn't a lot of information out there. And the way that she was approached was pretty much, she was handed a wad of papers saying, this is your child. So for her, it was a very hard process, but she took it on really well. She saw my strengths. And I think it's really important to always come from a strengths-based approach. I think we have come further in terms of picking up people on the spectrum, but we still have a lot more work to do. And this is why I'm here today, because even though I got a diagnosis younger, there was still some very harmful stereotypes around, and very, you know, the fact that ironically, the way I communicated was different, actually influenced how people saw me. So a little bit about that, if it's okay to say. My first speech assessment I had by a speech therapist, and I didn't connect with this person at all, because I'm very selective when it comes to the people I connect with. And she put me in the bottom 3 percentile of people with the communication. So she thought that my communication was one of the least functioning in the population. And I kind of want to be here today and prove that that's completely inaccurate. Had my mum stopped at that point, which a lot of parents do because they think, oh, I don't know who to follow, I don't know what to do, I wouldn't be here today. She got another diagnosis. I was in the complete top 3%. And this is why it's so important for professionals to see that it's not as simple as our outward representation. There's often a lot that goes beneath the surface. And if you take time to get to know the child, you will see a lot more of us.
And that's so important, please, to understand to parents that connection's so important, true, authentic connection, not feeling comfortable with a particular therapist or assessor is going to make such a big difference. So amazing, valid points. And just to jump in there, someone has said, one of my favourite advocates, hi Shadia, and I hope, Kristen, I was going to say this, I tag them, I hope the misguided person is watching this video and rethinking her assessment.
Oh, well, it would be great if there was a change, and if this can help therapists and can help the younger generations get the support they need.
And you mentioned strength-based approach, and obviously everyone, I think we've said it enough today, understands that we are about strengths. I'd love to know how you've used, or what your strengths are and how you've used that in your life.
Well, I consider my autism a gift, even though it has its unique challenges, but it's gifted. Well, to me, I can't separate my autism from my identity. If it makes who I am, and if I separated my autism, I'd be a different person. Help me connect with animals, understand them. I'm very highly sensitive. I'm an empath, so I feel emotion intensely. But this also means that I have very deep, meaningful connections with the right people. So the people who are in my inner circle, we have amazing discussions. We really love each other for who we are, and we feel authentic with each other. And it was through being autistic and connecting with like-minded people that I realized how rare it is. And you know what I thought? I thought, oh, these poor neurotypicals are missing out on stuff. Like, they're missing out on these meaningful connections and these different ways of communication. I love my art, my music, and my writing. It's become a big part of who I am and communicating myself. And I'm not the only person out there who's seen that. And I think my autism has given me this desire to make the world a better place through my activism and helping others, because, you know, my mindset is, if it's wrong, let's change it. And that's given me a passion for wanting to change it. And I think without my autism, I wouldn't be as inclusive as I am now. You know, I always relate my own experiences, even with other autistic people and things. When I'm having a frustrating day and I think this person's really bothering me, I think, how would I feel like if I was in that situation? And that mode of self-reflection has, I think, come from my experiences of being a sensitive autistic person. And that's a positive thing, because it's made me more of a non-judgmental person. And even my friends comment on the fact that I am very accepting and open-minded. ironically, because we're often considered very closed-minded.
I mean, that's exactly the misconceptions that we're breaking down today, right? The misguided misconceptions by listening to actually autistic people talk about their journey and breaking it down. And it's not just what you learn about or read about in textbooks from people. You have just done a great bit of information there that everyone's probably going to have to rewatch to digest all of that great information. Well done. I've got a few people saying well done to everyone today. Go Shadia from Leah. And someone said, my daughter is 17 and has autism, and thank you very much for everything you are doing today. So many people giving out sending their love to you and validating your experiences. You know, we love you at Yellow Ladybugs for everything you stand for. Your passion is just shines through. So thank you. And I know that that's going to be your legacy. So thank you. I've got lots more questions though, so you're not off the hook. So we spoke about your strengths. I just want to know, you talked a bit about your mum being so understanding. In general, you can talk in general, or, you know, from maybe your own story, or what you'd wish parents and family to do to help support maybe people who went through a similar journey like you.
Okay, so I'll give a bit of backstory. So I was happy to luck it in with someone very, very similar to me. So my mum was my rock. She's my advocate when I cannot advocate myself. And I think she's an exemplary example of what an autism parent should be. You know, someone who's supportive, but she also encouraged me to find my own voice. Like I continue to say this. Yeah. Help autistic people find their own voice. And I think too, I had a unique insight because, well, I hope if my dad's watching to listen to this, because this is a bit of a letter out to him in a sense. He didn't understand it, my autism. I don't think he still does. You know, he'd get upset when I didn't display affection in a certain way, which, you know, was influenced by a cultural background and things like that. But what I want to stress to people is just because we're not expressing it in the way that you are used to doesn't mean it's not there. We feel love deeply. I'm someone who expresses it through actions, you know, giving people opportunities, checking up on them. I'll make things for people. I've done artwork for people, and, you know, that's my way of showing love, not through touch, but through meaningful actions. And, you know, it's going to be different in every autistic child, but I'd encourage you, if you start thinking, I don't think this individual loves me, well, what ways are they perhaps trying to show you that they love you? Because it is there. We do love people deeply, very, very much so. And our parents can be the most influential people in our lives and be our, you know, I mean, my mum has helped me on so many countless occasions. We're still very close. And getting back on that point, I am amazed at how many neurotypical kids are missing out on meaningful connections with their parents. And I wish that every child and every parent can experience this. And the fact of the matter is, autism is never something we should be ashamed of. It makes us beautiful. It makes us who I am. Sure, there are challenges. There are challenges that comes with it, but our sensitivities, our love for, you know, our passions, our, you know, our interest in the world around us can actually help change it. And that's a good thing. If it wasn't for autism, we wouldn't have the technology we have. We wouldn't have the artwork we have, the music we have. Our world would be very bland, actually. So it's important to embrace this neurodiversity and embrace our difference. And these young kids, I tell you, they're giving me hope. Summer, I watched her today. Yeah. Oh my goodness, she's going to be running out. These people are going to be running our world one day.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm so proud of not only connecting with people like you, Shadia, that's giving a voice, a story, your own story, to the current generation, but the future generation of these younger advocates are brilliant. And I'm so proud that we're able to give that platform and unite them and give them a space that they can practice their advocacy on a bigger scale and then take it home on a personal level, because we need our you know, there's so many vulnerabilities, exposure to vulnerable situations and people that want to take advantage, but we need to harness this now so that we don't have to see what others have gone through in the past. I want to say some feedback from some people. Always, definitely, thank you, Shadia, own voice. Her daughter is involved and has a voice that deserves to be listened to and respected. Absolutely, Stacey. Ginny said, I love your passion you bring to your advocacy, Shadia. Well done. Love your honesty, passion, and I'm loving seeing and hearing all these strong advocates, so many insights today. And the last one, we've provided something that we've never had before on April 2nd. Our autistic-led community is coming together stronger than ever. Lifting others up is what it's all about. I'm so glad that you're part of that. Thank you for, I've got one last question, but I wanted to say thank you for being honest and raw with your discussion around your dad. There's a lot of cultural barriers around this that we haven't really, the intersectional issues around support we need to discuss. And even just dads in general, you know, there's some amazing, shout out to all the amazing understanding dads. We want to make sure that
more dads like you.
Yeah. We need dads out there that are listening to these conversations and taking it on board so that they can understand their children better, or husbands understand, you know, their wives better, or whatever it is. Let's just open that door to more understanding.
And I would also say to dads, it's not, you should not be ashamed to ask for questions, ask for help. Don't be ashamed to be a sensitive dad, an emotional dad, a proud dad, because I think sometimes there are some really well-meaning dads out there, but they can't reconcile this, you know, what society thinks of them in a sense, and then express that. I think that's an important part of this journey, is to also help those parents who may be feeling shut down themselves about this. Because yes, of course, there's amazing mums out there. I'm not discounting it, but I think it's time for dads to see that it's okay to be a good dad. It's okay to be a proud dad of an autistic child. And I think some don't know what that looks like. Some don't know how to be that role model.
Absolutely. And we're all about amplifying autistic voices, and that's what we are trying to do. But allies are so important as well to bring. We need to come together in this front, and we thank all the amazing allies in our community helping this, and those that are learning still. Thank you for opening yourselves up to learn more from you know, autistic advocates. We're so grateful. And I do want to end it on one last question, and then you can add any last comments. But thinking back to school, Shadia, I know there's a whole lot that you could probably share, but if you think back to one thing you were crying out for or desperately needed from teachers or peers, what was that?
Well, my primary school was the more problematic time of my life. My high school is really where I found my calling. It was one of those schools where actually being neurotypical was unusual. So geek studies was the most popular subject, and everything. So it was very much a neurodiversity friendly place to be. But I think we
need more schools like that.
Yes.
To the government listening, investment in schools like that. Keep on going, Shadia.
Sure. I would like to stress that difference is not wrong. I wish that there was more knowledge of the non-conventional presentation in autistic individuals. When I was around, all there was male. So I had a lot of things that my masking appeared because I didn't know whether I was autistic enough. Was I acting too autistic? What were people expecting of me? And I felt the need to conform. And I realized now that that was not necessary and I didn't need to. And it was through connecting with some amazing autistic advocates that I'm still connected with today that it inspired me to be different, because we need more different. And when you get to adulthood, people are striving to be different. So then you're the cool ones.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good point, Shadia. And I think that we need to make unique the norm in the classroom. I've said that comment a few times. We need to build it into our curriculum, because we talk about all other types of diversity. We've done a really good job in schools around understanding, you know, people's cultural backgrounds. We need to put neurodiversity and understanding diverse minds as a curriculum topic to better understand and celebrate everyone's different, not one's better than the other. And it needs to be something that our government invest in and support. And, you know, through listening to people like you, Shadia, let's hope that this is, you know, where we're going as a society, one that definitely embraces that. And that is what we want to make sure we get done. And, you know, as we said, there's lots of different types of people, presentations, but let's make sure everyone gets the support they need. Any other last question? Yes, flexibility. Last comment for you, Shadia. We're so excited to see what you do next. You're extraordinary.
Oh, thank you.
We agree. We agree, definitely. Kristen, we're so proud to have you on board wearing yellow today. You know, honestly, couldn't be more excited to see how we can collaborate in the future and learn more from you. Everyone's saying thanks, Shadia. Last comments before we honestly finish an incredible day.
Sorry, what was that?
Any last comments before we finish our incredible day today, or do you feel like we've summed it all up?
Oh, I honestly can say I am so grateful for the community we have, the opportunities we have, and I am really excited for what the future brings. I'm looking at all my mentees out there, all the young girls who are going to be the change makers of this world. And these sorts of messages of positive neurodiversity really do give me hope for the future, hope and happiness, because I want my role to be redundant eventually. I don't want my role to be needed anymore. So,
yeah. Thank you, Shadia. That's a great message to leave on. And I'll just say to everyone watching today, thank you to each of our speakers for lending us your voice, your time, your energy, your story. We validate it, we honour it, we will share it. We ask each and every one of you who's watching this today to share this. It's so important to get the message out. You never know what life you would change by being part of the journey, by sharing this information. And at Yellow Ladybugs, our overarching objective is to shine a positive light on our community. And we want to find constructive solutions to meet our needs. And because we know that when girls and women are supported, girls, women, and anyone in our tribe are supported, connected, and accommodated, we can thrive, right? We can thrive. We just need better understanding and support. And that's what we're seeing today. So I'm very grateful for everyone for their time. Thanks, Shadia.
And don't be afraid to start discussions, ask questions. Like, we need, especially during this month, we need positive discussions. I'd like to see more discussions around employment for women, you know, looking at different diverse groups with autism. We need these discussions to happen.
Absolutely, I agree. And you know, I know it's hard for so many people, but if we change the narrative and focus it on using the autistic voice, it doesn't have to be something that we shy away from, because we're in control and we're steering that discussion. And that's what we've been trying to do. Thanks, guys, for sending so much love. And honestly, I've been reading the comments, and all, like as Ellen says, back at you, everyone online. Shadia, you've been amazing. Thank you for joining us today. And please tune in this week. We've still got lots of news to share on the exciting Go Yellow movement. Thank you.
Fabulous. Bye.
Thanks, Shadia. Bye. About 30 seconds.
Okay. Jane, close the door all the way.
Perfect. Okay. All right, so we're now streaming on live, and we're here with Cynthia from the Neurodiverse Woman. So we're so glad to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Katie. Thank you so much for having me. This is a huge honor.
Well, it's all ours because we follow you, and we've had so many people reach out to say we'd love to have hear more from you, and what you share on your page is just so insightful. So thank you for being, again, another presenter with such great lived experience to share with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for your kind words.
So we have some questions, and I know I'm happy for you to answer in any way you like. If you'd like to read from the screen like our previous speaker, Summer, or direct. But one of the questions we heard most from our community was, what would you like the current and future generation of autistic girls and women to know? What sort of tips or advice as well would you give them?
Sure. This is what I would like them to know, that they are okay the way they are. There is nothing wrong with them. There is nothing missing or lacking. They were created the way they are for a reason. Whether you believe this is a higher power like God or the universe, or simply the fact that the world really needs us. Don't buy into the myth that there is something wrong with you for being sensitive, inquisitive, analytical, quiet, thoughtful and reflective, or possibly at times very extroverted, chatty, and loud. For being direct, highly empathic, and the way you feel all of your emotions so very deeply, the ones that are easy to endure because they are positive, like joy and excitement, and the challenging ones too, like grief or sorrow. Or your absolute need to be real and authentic at all times in all you do, and how you absolutely detest chit-chat. The way you analyze things to death will help you navigate difficult situations when you're older, and depending on what career you choose, help you to be eons beyond your peers. Don't buy into the narrative that autism means you are defective. Autism simply means your brain is wired differently. It's wired beautifully, just like your heart and soul. It means you will shine and excel in some areas and struggle in others. Focus on your strengths. Most of us are super good at being hard on ourselves, but please learn to go easy and gentle on yourself. Have fun excelling at what you love. You know that special interest or passion you have? Spend your time focusing on it. It just might be what brings you success in life, whatever that means for you. Sustainability as far as being able to provide for yourself someday, or an ability to create needed change or beauty in the world. Maybe you'll be a writer or advocate someday, speaking about autism or another cause close to your heart on a live video like this. Love yourself and your gifts in all your uniqueness. Find people who love and embrace you, even if it's just a few people who truly see you. They are out there, and that's all that you need. It is important they acknowledge your differences and respect them and cherish you for everything you are. Lastly, meet friends on the spectrum, whether through a local organization like Yellow Ladybugs, and can I just say, those of you in Australia are so lucky to have Katie and her team with this organization, or somewhere online. This peer support will be so important as you work to love and accept yourself just as you are, and find people that totally just get you and feel like home.
Oh, wow. I forgot where I was, and I felt like I just heard the most poetic, beautiful message. Thank you so much. I honestly didn't get tissues I should have by my side, because you just said such beautiful messages and it went right to my heart. So thank you. What a beautiful, beautiful message for our girls and women today, and even to the the generations before us that didn't get to hear this kind of insight. We're so lucky to have you say those words, because they will be a legacy that will be listened to over and over again, no matter by who and when. So thank you. So many, I've got tissue now. We've got a lot of people saying they're crying listening to this. I think it's the validation of your words. Someone said, love your message, Cynthia. I'm crying. Whoa. Whew. So thank you. I'm so proud of that message that you've been able to give you. And thank you for saying find autistic friends. We really believe it's important to find people you know, yes, have neurotypical friends, but gosh, there's something special about finding your tribe.
Yes.
And it's beautiful to witness. So thank you for making that message. What was the I'm totally lost now. Which so was there any other tips that you wanted to give, or, you know, talk about your strengths? You've got so many beautiful strengths. What's something that you want to share about that?
Sure. Well, this is what I'll say. And maybe this is sharing too much, and I hope all of you are laughing with me right now as I go off my notes and oops, I shared too much on a live video. But I got the questions. I was able to access them about 24 hours ago, and thankfully Katie gave me permission to write. My main strength is writing, to share most deeply what's in my heart and soul. Although I do have a background in public speaking, I'm still very new to autism after only being diagnosed 3 years ago at age 40. So what I have here is a longer list of things I'm good at. And my husband gave feedback, oh, you should do something else. But anyway, here it is, and I apologize if the length is too long, but perhaps you will see yourself, you know, in some of these characteristics. And some of the things that are my strengths and gifts are not common, or, you know, rarely what you hear for women on the spectrum. So my strengths are this: caring, compassion, strong analytical mind, a love of learning and strong ability to learn, especially if it's a subject matter I love, empathy, intuition, creativity. I combine my intuition and creativity when creating recipes in the kitchen, cooking, and writing, and making important choices as I care for my health. Less common for those on the spectrum, I am very athletic and have a natural athletic ability. I have very strong hand-eye coordination and played on the tennis team in high school, and throughout junior high and high school, I was the one asked to be the demo person in class amongst all of our neurotypical guys and girls. Like, Cynthia knows how to throw a football. Would you throw that for the class? Cynthia, why don't you do the breaststroke for the class? Winning a paper airplane contest, going into ping pong championships. Like, it's just something I love, being active. And I'm very thorough and conscientious. I work hard and give 110% at whatever I'm focusing my effort toward. I am honest and ethical. I root for the underdog and care about social justice issues. I am also a very good listener and am told that I'm an excellent writer and public speaker. I'm also gifted at acting. In high school, I took an acting class senior year, and because my boyfriend was 1 year younger, my teacher didn't realize I was a senior because he was a junior. Well, she saw me at graduation and said, I was going to ask you to star in the play. You know, just for taking her acting class. It's just something I love. I learn things well and extremely in depth, then excel beyond most of my peers. And an example of this is I have a background in the medical field, but also banking and mortgage. And it's a lot to learn. Those of you who work in banking and mortgage, you know. But I ask all the questions, and it might seem like I'm taking longer to learn it. But then once I do, you know, I would reach, like when I was a bank teller for a while, I reached 1,200%, or actually 400% over my sales goal within 2 weeks of a quarterly goal. Or in mortgage, I worked with a team of men, but was in the top third of my sales force, you know, of the whole department, the whole office. And also, I'm loyal and stand by my friends. I am spiritual and feel a deep connection to God, which helps guide me in the work I do and to overcome health challenges that have been very daunting for me and difficult to overcome. And I, you know, am aware that many of us live with autoimmune issues and food sensitivities, and and I have them all, and they've been really challenging over the years. Yeah.
Mm. That's a great list, and honestly, I'm sure online there are many people nodding their head like I've just been doing, saying, wow, that's just, you know, the way that you can describe your strengths and know yourself so well, you know, is mirrored by so many. In fact, someone gave a comment saying, watching a yellow ladybug woman's face is such a cool, sweet mirror to the bigger audience out there. A message straight from your heart to so many others. Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Because it is echoed. Some of what you've described, there are so many ways, like, I'm not sure if it was you or another speaker said that we can get so good at looking at what we're not good at and our flaws, but to be able to articulate those strengths and use that to drive you and to be successful, however you define your own success, is beautiful to see. And someone else said, I never thought intuition to be an asset, but you're so right. You can have intuition in the kitchen, you know, and that is spot on. That intuition is something that should be nurtured, especially, you know, when we get sometimes hearing stories of people saying neurotypical people maybe not overriding our intuition. So that is definitely a strength we need to harness in ourselves and our girls. We do have time for another question. Did you have one in particular that you wanted to answer out of the others?
Yeah, let me scroll down and see which answer I like that came to me. Let's see which one. Well, I think I'll go with the third one, because then if I have a very short answer for the fourth one, so if there was time, we could answer
Go for it. Yeah.
Did you want to ask?
So the question was, what sort of things, is that the one? What sort of things could parents? Yeah, what sort of things could parents or family have done to help you as a child to meet some of the challenges that you may have faced?
Sure, great question. So there was no awareness of autism in girls or women in the 70s and 80s. And of course, we are still trying to create awareness in 2019. I was born in 1975. Unfortunately, this lack of awareness came along with me being extremely different than my siblings, the neighbor kids, classmates, and everyone around me. No one knew why I was the way I was. So I was constantly trying to change myself to be more like everyone around me and hide the very things that make me special and unique. The things that would have helped me would be, rather than focusing on my differences as things to change or criticize, that they be parts of me that were embraced, such as my sensitivity, which is high and completely off the charts. And now, just now, through my blogging, have I met a few others who are this highly sensitive, where it's, you know, yeah, there's highly sensitive and then there's off the charts. That's where I fall, which has been deeply ironic that I was called to blog and share my voice publicly, because if you knew how sensitive I was, you would know it's a challenge for me quite often. And then also how very slowly and methodically I do things, and the great thought I put into everything, often ruminating for hours on possibilities, or when trying to solve a problem or figure something out. Support your child or family member rather than trying to change them. As a young girl, you know, one example I have, as a young girl, I always wanted to be with my family, which that can be also an atypical quality, you know, versus always wanting to be alone. But I wanted to always be with my family, but instead I was told, go to your room alone like your brother and sister do and just read. So that for me was awful, because I would pace, you know, the kitchen. I remember being 4 or 5 years old with red tennis shoes, and I would stop to look at my face in the side of the oven mirror, but ask my mom question after question. You know, I always wanted to be right there, engaging and learning and trying to understand the world. And lastly, listen to us, see and feel who we truly are, and honor us. Instead of forcing us to be like our siblings, who may be very different than us, embrace us for who we are in this moment, and try to see how the parts of us you may see as challenging or unusual could be the very gifts the world needs most as we grow older, and will help us be successful at whatever we feel called to do.
Yes, amazing. So beautiful. And those words are just, if, you know, we would love to, if you could even share those words after on the post, because we need people to read it and hear it and listen to it. Magical response, Cynthia. We value that. We validate it. We thank you for it. I know we had one more question, but I'm just conscious of time, and if you could please put your answer in the comments. And I think we had something on thinking back to your school years. What is one thing that you would desperately have wanted your teachers to best support you? I'm sure you've got an equally eloquent, insightful response. If you can share it, because
it's very short. So I can do this. This is the shortest one of all.
Oh, let's end on it then.
Thank you. So one thing that I would have wanted my teacher at school to best support me, I said some of those years through grade school and junior high were extremely isolating for me, with few or no friends in my class. I was extremely shy, socially awkward, and studious. I'd recommend not letting these nice girls that are so sweet, yet socially unsure, be left out. Create some kind of way for other kids to get to know them for their gifts so friendships can develop. Let them talk about their special interests, and don't let them be alone on the playground and left out.
Yeah, so true. And we are really trying to change that here in Melbourne, Victoria. We need a universal approach to this. You know, we need to be able to reach all corners of the world with this message, because there are so many girls on the playground who are not connecting because they're not supported in the right way. And a powerful message. We know some schools get it right, but it needs to be consistent. It needs to be a priority. We call our governments to invest in this space to better understand and listen to amazing speakers like you, so that we can create solutions for this. It can't go on, as you said, it's 2019. We need to see some change, real change happening. And through your words, we will unite and bring that forward, and hope that we can start getting some of this happening for the girls, so that we don't have those same experiences that you described. But thank you, because what we've been able to do is use that and share it to the world. And thank you for sharing, Cynthia. We really appreciate you. Honestly, we could do a whole day listening to you. But what we will do is share your words. And if you do not know who Cynthia is, please go to her page. Best thing you can do, the neurodiverse woman. Great, great insights. Thank you, Cynthia. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I just want to thank those of you who are tuning in and listening, and know that life can and does get better. And yeah, I'm a work in progress. And, you know, it feels so good to have only gotten this diagnosis and now work on understanding myself. So please know, if you don't have the insights about yourself that I shared, I didn't either. I'm 43. I'm older than I look. Give yourself time. And then
You're younger than you look. You look young.
That's also can be a common
trait
for those of us women on the spectrum, sounding younger, looking younger, feeling very childlike inside in many ways. And then just
in a good way, yeah.
Lastly, just thank you, Katie and the whole Yellow Ladybug team, for choosing me. Daily, I share the work of my advocate peers, and every day I am in awe by their minds and their creativity and their insights. So, you know, to be one of the few chosen for this, I appreciate it. I hardly slept. I've just been so excited. So this was a very special opportunity for me. And I look forward to sharing more and collaborating in the future.
We can't wait. We honestly can't wait. Watch this space, everyone. Cynthia's going to be able to share so much for the amazing benefit of our tribe. Thank you, Cynthia. We're grateful, and we will see you in Facebook land.
Thank you so much, Katie, and everyone else.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.